Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. This is your host, Adam Graham, from more or less the present day. And we are bringing you in this YouTube video a week of archive programs from the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. Now, these were recorded several years ago, are being posted exactly as they were, except I am cutting the opening for all but the first episode to exclude the theme music and as much front matter as I can, and then also cutting down the end to remove some of that contact information. Now, any specific offers or deals offered on the podcast are not actually valid unless they are shown on our current website at greatdetectives.net. This video does contain chapters, so if you don't want to listen to all of the programs in the week, you can skip around to the ones that you want to listen to, just like the original listeners did. Now it's time for our archive programs.
Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you another episode of Box 13 starring Dan Holliday. Check out the show notes site, greatdetectives.net. Got any comments, feel free to email me, box13 at greatdetectives.net. So please cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley. We're going to get into tonight's episode. Actor's Alibi here. Right now, here is Dan Holliday.
Box 13. With the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13. Box 13. Box 13. Box 13.
Holliday, why did you ever leave a soft job as a reporter to become a freelance writer? Or why did you ever advertise for adventure? Why? Well, it makes you feel like a kid with a box of Cracker Jacks. Now you can't stop. You might run across a juicy peanut or that grand prize that's supposed to come in each and every package. But you know by now that storylines like money don't grow on trees. Suzie, where have you been?
You know where I've been, Mr. Holliday. Down for Star Times after the mail.
Oh, yes, the mail. What's in Box 13? Box 13, starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday. And now, Box 13, starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday. Box 13. I wish I'd never rented the thing. Wish I'd never even thought of it.
Mr. Holliday, you're early this morning.
Well, I had to see if my new secretary's on the ball.
You know, since you rescued me from that nut factory down to Star Times, I'd work my fingers off the elbows for you.
Oh, now take it easy, Suzie. You'll need those elbows to lean on when things get dull around here.
Dull? Oh, things don't get dull around you, Mr. Holliday.
Hey, what's that you're writing? A love letter?
Yeah, it's a love letter to your publisher.
Uh-oh.
He wants to know where are the chapters you promised for the new book.
And what are you telling him, Susie?
A lie. A big fat one.
Thanks.
By the way, where are those chapters, Mr. Holliday?
If I had them, my secretary'd have lots of extra work. You don't like extra work, do you, Susie?
I don't like your worried look. When you don't have chapters, you have that look.
Oh, does it show so much?
Like a chinchilla coat in the dime store.
It's the hallmark of my profession, Susie. Say, what was in box 13 today?
Some goof wants you should fly to Mars with him in his homemade rocket.
Oh, brother.
Oh, yes. There was a ticket to a radio broadcast.
Radio broadcast?
Silky Soap presents Time for Drama, starring Jean Blake, 8 p.m. Federal Broadcasting Studios.
Now, who would want me to go to a radio show?
The advertising agency, maybe?
Those guys don't read adventure wanted ads. Too busy dreaming up singing commercials.
Someone wants you to go to that broadcast awful bad.
Yeah.
She wrote please in the back of the envelope.
She?
Yeah, she. And I don't like her taste in lipstick. The one she wrote this with is the color of blood.
And now you have returned, my darling. I am alive again. The wind is down, but still the seas run high.
Time for Drama has presented The Wind is Down, starring Jean Blake. In the cast were Robert Baylor as John, Agnes Sloan as grandmother, and Marvin Masterson as the butler. This is FCC, the Federal Broadcasting Company.
Sorry, sir, we're closing the studio.
Huh? Oh, sure. I was meeting someone. They must have stood me up.
Someone in the cast, sir?
Yes, it could be.
I think they've all gone, but you might try the stage entrance.
Oh, thanks. How do I get there?
Around the back of the building, sir, just opposite the parking lot.
You boulder-throwing idiot. What? Where you're going?
Sorry, I didn't see you coming around the corner.
You autograph hounds always clutter up the entrance. For that, I'll not give you mine. Step aside there. Oh, don't mind him, son. He's just an old ham. Has been.
Oh, that's a heavy hunk of ham. Who is he, Pop?
His name's Marvin Masterson.
Not the Marvin Masterson.
Yep. He's washed up in pictures. Through on the stage, too. Does bits on the air now.
Say, didn't I see him play a butler on Time for Drama tonight?
Yep. Oh, the mighty have fallen.
Say, Pop, you read that like an actor.
Was one once. Oh, not Mac Masterson, of course. But I can appreciate how he must feel.
Well, someone else did, too, when he said, Fame, it is the flower of a day that dies when the next sun rises.
You an actor, too, son?
No, writer.
The name wouldn't be Dan Holliday, would it?
Yes, why?
Got a message for you.
From whom?
Don't know. Found this note on my desk. If Mr. Dan Holliday comes around, ask him to go to the Mayfair restaurant.
Hey, what is this? I'm getting passed around like a collection plate.
And when you catch up to her, give her a pencil. That lipstick smeared up my call sheet.
Monsieur Halliday, it is an honor to have you once more at Mayfair. You have deserted us too long.
Working hard, Henri?
Always. But tonight, you relax. You have fun, eh, Monsieur Halliday?
What do you mean?
A charming young lady waiting for you at your table.
Oh, I'd hoped you'd come, Mr. Holliday.
Why, you're Jean Blake.
Yes. I must talk with you.
We'll order later, Henri. Now, what is this all about?
Oh, I suppose I am being rather mysterious.
I'm used to mystery. Besides not owning a pencil, what's your problem?
Pencil?
Yes, that lipstick you write notes with comes off on things.
Oh. I'm in danger, Mr. Holliday. Grave danger.
But why come to me?
I know about you in Box 13. You advertise adventure wanted. Will go any place, do anything. I need help, so...
So?
Mr. Holliday, I'm going to be killed. I'll do anything you ask, but you must help me. You must.
Oh, no. Look, Miss Blake, I'm a writer, not a detective.
Hello, Monsieur Holliday.
Yes, Honor?
There's a call for you. May I plug in the phone?
A call? Oh, sure. Excuse me, please. Hello?
You're engaged in an interesting adventure tonight. Aren't you, Mr. Holliday?
You must be psychic. Who is this?
If seeing into your future is being psychic, I suppose I am. You see, when I ring off, I know you will tell that beautiful young woman sitting next to you that you can't help her.
Oh?
Surprised?
Yeah, a little. What makes you so sure?
If you don't send her away, you won't be able to help her. Or anyone else.
That I don't see.
Something else you don't see is a gun. It's aimed precisely between your eyes. No, don't look around. You can't see it from there. But an expert marksman can see you. However, every move.
You're in this restaurant?
Interesting situation, isn't it? Hundreds of people around you, and you don't know which one you're speaking with. Or which will shoot you. If you don't do what you're told. Get rid of that girl, Holliday. Now.
Now, Miss Blake.
You will help me.
But Miss Blake,
But you must. You simply must. Look, I'll pay you anything.
I don't want your money, Miss Blake. I want you to see the police.
You won't help me?
No,
That's final?
that's final.
Very well. Goodbye, Mr. Holliday.
Well, nice going, Holiday. A young woman in distress pleads for help, and what do? Send her out into the night alone. But you had to do it, so that madman on the phone wouldn't hurt somebody. Now you've got to find her, and fast. Henri!
Oui, Monsieur Holliday?
That girl who just left, Jean Blake. Did you see where she went?
Oui, monsieur. She walked toward the park.
Well, this is the park, but no Jean Blake. Oh, there she is. Miss Blake! Miss Blake, wait! It's all right, Miss Blake. Dan Holiday.
Oh, but I thought...
No time for thinking. Get in my car quickly.
What can I do? What can I do?
Oh, now, easy, Miss Blake. Take it easy. There, you'll be all right now. Come on, try to be calm. Will you tell me who's been threatening you? There's only one thing we can do.
What?
Go to the police. You can relax now, Holiday. You're off that hook. The Blake gal's probably back home, and you can bet they put a cop to stand guard at the door. Sure, Holiday, this would have made a great springboard for a yarn. But you're out of it now. So I'll just forget the whole thing. Anyway, what would you have done for the last chapter? Last chapter. Of course, if you should go back to the Mayfair for lunch tomorrow, you just might run across something interesting.
Holiday.
Yes?
The author? I thought as much. I've seen your pictures on dust jackets of your very exciting books. I'm a fan of yours.
Well, have a seat, Mr. Masters.
You recognize me. Have we bumped into one another before?
Well, I'd call it a near miss. But along with a few million others, I'd recognize you anyway.
Personally, I detest dining alone. Since no one was with you, I took the liberty.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Henri, serve my dinner here.
You hear me, sir?
Your voice is very distinctive, Mr. Masterson. Seems I've heard it just recently.
Of course. It was on the radio. I've been doing a bit of that, you know. Simply for amusement, of course.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I saw you on Gene Blake's show last evening. You played the butler.
Yes. I asked them not to credit me. It's just dabbling with radio. A new medium, you see.
Well, I'm sure the name Masterson means a great deal, even to the radio audience.
The public soon forget.
I call Monsieur Holiday. The phone is connected.
Oh, thank you. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Holiday. It's going to happen, sir. I told you about it. I know it is. If only you could come now. No. No, don't shoot.
Hello. Hello. Good Lord.
Holiday. What's wrong?
Jean Blake. She's just been murdered.
You are listening to Box 13, starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday. And now, back to Box 13, starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Well, what a sleuth you turned out to be, Holiday. You sit in on a mutual admiration session with a tired old ham actor. And the gal you're trying to protect gets knocked off.
Hold it, Mac. Where do you think you're going?
Miss Blake.
Miss Blake ain't seeing nobody.
Yeah, that's for sure. She's dead.
Dead? Are you crazy, mister? I've been here all the time.
Which part of the duplex is hers?
Upstairs. But you can't...
Come on. Is this it?
Yes, but I...
Come on, bust it in. See what I mean?
Suicide, huh? What did she take?
Suicide. You better look again. She was shot.
That's impossible. I'd have heard something. I've been here 6 hours and I ain't heard no shot.
But there were 3 shots. I heard them just 15 minutes ago.
You heard them. You wasn't here 15 minutes ago. Or was you?
Were you?
I told you I've been here 6 hours.
Didn't you leave for cigarettes or something?
I told you I've been here.
Yeah, I know you've been here 6 hours. But who was around before I got here?
No one. That is, nobody but them.
Nobody but who?
The tenants of the other apartment. An old guy and his daughter, name of Masterson.
Masterson?
Look, Mac, you know too much about this. I'm holding you till I get the inspector down here.
Sure, when you phone in, tell headquarters to send along a magician's manual.
Huh?
You didn't hear any shots. This thing must have been done with mirrors.
Did you talk to Miss Blake after you left her last night?
No, not till she phoned me this noon, Inspector. At the restaurant.
She phoned you at the restaurant this noon.
Yeah, that's right. I was having lunch with a guy from downstairs, Marvin Masterson.
Well, I got news for you, Holiday. If you talked to anybody, it wasn't Miss Blake.
What do you mean?
She couldn't have telephoned you. She's been dead over 12 hours.
about that? Holiday, where's that good ear you're supposed to have? Sure, you would swear it was Miss Blake's voice. But she was dead 12 hours before. Look, Holiday, you're trying to find the last chapter. But even you couldn't write this one. But it was her voice. Come on now, think, Holiday. What did she say over the phone?
It's going to happen. What I told you about. I know it is. If only you could come now.
There was something else that came over that wire. Something a good ear would have picked up.
If only you could come now. If only you could come now.
Think, Holiday, think. What else did you hear over that phone? A clock. A clock sounding the Westminster Abbey chimes.
Yes, coming. Yes?
Miss Masterson? I'm Dan Holiday.
Oh, yes. Good evening. Won't you come in?
I'm sorry to intrude.
Oh, not at all. Father told me he lunched with you this noon.
Oh, yes. Is your father at home?
No.
Oh.
Is there something I can do?
Oh, yes. Answer a few questions, if you will.
Well, if it's about that poor girl upstairs, the police have already questioned Father and me extensively. Poor Father. He was so upset he went out to our beach cottage for a few days.
I'd like very much to know...
Can't you get your information from headquarters?
No.
Why?
You see, I know more than the police do.
Isn't withholding evidence a crime, Mr. Holliday?
Yes. So is aiding and abetting a murder.
I'm afraid that's not very clear.
Some details are not clear to me. That's why.
Are you insinuating that...
No. I'm accusing.
Accusing whom of what?
A father and his daughter of murder and abetting a murder, respectively.
It's ridiculous.
I don't think so.
I get it. This is just a gag cooked up between you and my father. Well, it really isn't very funny.
It's no gag. Your father murdered Jean Blake. And I believe you helped me, Miss Masterson. And now I'm sure of it.
Is my silence that expressive?
No, but your clock strikes the Westminster chimes.
Chimes? I don't see what they've got to do with it.
I see several things. Your fancy record player, for one. It does have an attachment to make recordings, doesn't it?
Mr. Holliday, you have no right to ask questions. The police got all the information they wanted.
But not the evidence to convict Marvin Masterson. I know he's a murderer.
You'll have to prove that.
This noon over the phone, I heard Jean Blake calling for help. Then I heard the shot that killed her.
Well, if my father was dining with you at the time, how could he be the killer?
I heard the murder, but not at the time it was committed. It was you, Miss Masterson, who telephoned me at the restaurant.
Are you trying to say I'm clever enough to go through that shooting routine and then fake Jean Blake's voice over the phone?
It was Miss Blake's voice, all right. However, I heard it 12 hours after your father killed her in this apartment. Later, he carried her body upstairs.
That's fantastic.
Is it? Mind if I go through this collection of records? I should find the one Jean Blake was forced to cut on this machine before she was shot to death.
No, don't, please.
Oh, you did play that record I heard on the phone.
Yes. But I thought it was a joke Father was playing on someone. He phoned me a few minutes before and told me what to do.
What did you think when you discovered Miss Blake was dead?
I was frantic. You see, Father wanted me to forget all about the records. He refused to answer any of my questions. Mr. Holliday, my father can't be responsible for this tragedy. He's just a broken old man. He was the idol of millions for so long, and now they don't want him anymore. It's breaking his heart. Please. Please, I'm begging you to forget all about this, Mr. Holliday.
I thought you might be innocently involved. But I'm afraid you can't protect your father from a murder charge.
What will I do with him?
I'm sorry, Miss Masterson, but I'll have to take that back.
Don't touch that cabinet, Holliday.
Oh, you didn't like the beach, Masterson.
I didn't go. You're too clever to be out of my sight.
Being at this end of your gun might indicate otherwise.
But I don't like guns pointing at me.
Hey, get out of the way.
He was going to shoot you.
Oh, you're so right. Fortunately, you got in the way. Are you convinced now that he killed Miss Blake?
Yes. I'm afraid I am. How did you know it was done here, not up in Jean's apartment?
Jean didn't have a clock, which strikes the Westminster Abbey chimes.
This is Box 13, starring Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
What is Station High? It is a proud Benedict. It boasts and begs. It begs alms of homage from the throng, and oft the throng denies its charity.
Holliday.
What's that, Inspector?
I said that Masterson was a fool. Imagine his insane jealousy of a young performer leading him into a murder plot.
Oh, I know, but after all, look at it from Masterson's viewpoint. He'd been a great star, and now he was reduced to playing a bit in support of a girl he considered an upstart.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad.
Yes, his thinking went awry on him. He figured if he got rid of her, they might rebuild the show around him.
The old boy was nutty as a peck of peanut brittle.
Well, Mr. Holliday, should I go over to Star Times and see what's in Box 13?
Oh, not this morning, Suzie. Today we work.
Chapters for our publishers?
Chapters for our dear publisher.
Good. Oh, say, before we start, there's a letter here for you.
A letter? What's it say?
It's from the man who owns the apartment building where you live.
Yeah?
It says, your rent is past due. Get it up or get out.
Oh, fine.
Next week, same time, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Alan Ladd appears through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures and may currently be seen in Wild Harvest. Box 13 is directed by Ted Hediger, with an original story by Frank Hart Tossig. The part of Suzie is played by Sylvia Picker. Original music was composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. This is a Mayfair production.
Welcome back. This is an episode you really have got to put your own personal Wayback Machine on to really appreciate. A recording being used in a murder isn't something we would consider a clever device nowadays. Right off, I can think of 3 separate episodes of Columbo where the killer used a recorder in a much cleverer way than the killer in this episode. In fact, you have to say this was just overall on behalf of the killer a very clumsy job done, because he didn't take into account that the police would be able to figure out the time of death. He figured, well, I'll go ahead and my daughter will play the recording and I'll be eating it with Dan Holliday, and never thinking that the police could figure out that 12 hours earlier is when she'd been killed. So, not a great effort by the villain here, so it kind of weakens it. But remember, this is 1948. They had not seen or heard near as many mystery shows, and the ante had not been raised so high, so to speak. So still, I thought it was a very good episode, and I thought they had some good tension at several spots. So, one thing I want to let people know, I actually read the comments from the Pat Novak episodes, and all the episodes, all the comments we get on Podcast Alley, we read them on Friday with the Let George Do It, because we're pre-recording these episodes before comments have been left. So to be timely, we're keeping all the feedback we received, and we're doing it in Johnny Dollar on Friday, our Dollar Day. So if say you've just been downloading the Pat Novak episodes, you just need to wait till Friday. Friday we have the comments. Download yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and we will answer your comments and emails on the show. But we're going to get into tonight's episode, Fleet Lady, here on the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American Broadcasting Company brings to its entire network one of radio's most unusual programs. Pat Novak, For Hire.
Sure. I'm Pat Novak, For Hire.
That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak, For Hire. You gotta put it in block letters, because down on the waterfront in San Francisco, there's a price tag on everything. You gotta do that or marry a rich widow. I don't like to work that hard, so I rent boats and do anything else that's cash and carry. Oh, it's all right if you don't mind trouble, because that's one thing you can't duck. It's like trying to dance the minuet in skis. And the best trouble always looks good from the outside. You're all smiles and feel like a kid opening a hand grenade under the Christmas tree. I found that out Tuesday night. It was around 7 o'clock. I was getting ready to close the office when this little guy showed up. He was about the size of a golf bag with arms. And if he had a cigar box, he could see over a pool table. He walked up to the desk and started talking in a voice that made you think he was trying to put Lily Pons out of work.
Hello, you Novak?
You're doing all right so far. What's on your mind?
I'm Jackie Gregg. You heard of me, huh?
You're the shy type, I know.
I'm Jackie Gregg, the jockey. You heard of me, huh?
All right, now I heard of you. Put the show on the road.
I'm looking for a horse. You want to find me a horse?
Yeah, I breed 'em in the back room. What color do you want?
You're so tough I gotta take that from you?
Calm down before you wind up in a boys' choir. If you got anything to sell, put it on the line or beat it.
I'm riding a horse tomorrow called Fleet Lady. She's disappeared.
She's not here.
I'm supposed to ride the 6th race with her tomorrow at the Bonanza Handicap, and she's gone.
All right, she's gone. Maybe your horse likes to go out at night. I haven't seen her. Get to the point.
I'll give you $200 to find that horse. Somebody took her in a van. I trailed her down here at the waterfront.
But you lost him up at the ferry building.
That's right. Something funny's going on. My mom disappeared, and you gotta find her.
This is a big waterfront, and where's the $200?
You'll get that all right. Down by Pier 19. The van turned in. Think you can find Fleet Lady?
I don't know. Who owns her?
Woman named Sybil Thornton. She's mixed up, I think.
Yeah. Why steal your own horse?
I don't know. Run a ringer, maybe.
That's a tough trick.
This woman's got some good ones. You want the $200?
Yeah. How are the odds?
What's the difference? You're gonna open a book? You better take the $200 now.
Yeah, the dough will keep. You sound frightened, Junior.
And you sound nosy. Here's the $200. I want you to find the horse. You let me know at the Kingston Hotel, huh?
Sure.
And if you don't find anything around the waterfront, maybe you better try the track. Ask around there.
Yeah. By the way, how do you fit in? How come you got $200 interest in that horse?
Maybe I love horses. What do you care if maybe I love horses?
I don't. A guy like you's got to love something. Oh, yeah, it was a sweet proposition. A jockey in search of a horse. There's something phony about the whole thing. I had the $200, but I didn't feel good. It was like a guy stealing a murder gun to help out on a scrap metal drive. Well, after the little guy left, I closed the office and started to hit the docks, but it didn't work out. You know, you can buy good whiskey these days, so you feel funny walking up to some guy on the pier and asking, "Have you seen a racehorse around here, mister?" By 9, I was sure the horse wasn't around, so I borrowed a car and drove out to the track. I found out where Sybil Thornton's horses were quartered and headed down that way. It was pretty dark, so when I bumped into her, all I got was a vague outline. She had a good-looking vague outline.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I'm full of regrets, too. Shall we try it again?
But you're a little mixed up in your animals. They keep horses here.
You don't seem to mind.
No, you lean nicely, but you'd probably feel safer with a platform.
Yeah. Well, we try this again when I've had 3 good meals. That's a horse.
Yes, I know. In fact, I own her.
I see. That'd make you Sybil Thornton.
Yes, what would it make you?
A guy named Pat Novak looking for your horse. I was hired on the waterfront to find her.
My, they grow big on the waterfront. You must get a lot of sun. By the way, is Fleet Lady missing?
Your jockey says she is. That's why I'm snooping around.
Didn't know he had any friends.
He's got a checkbook. How about Fleet Lady? Is she tucked in bed?
Yes.
Well, let's take a look, huh?
Find it very dull, Mr. Novak.
Yeah, that's what they said to Anthony. Let's see the horse.
Suit yourself. She's down this way.
Okay.
I'm doing this out of the bigness of my heart. I think you're wasting my generosity, Mr. Novak.
Now, don't use it all this trip.
It's from the stable. Come on. Down about here. Fleet Lady's stall. Here. There's a flashlight on the wall.
All right.
Oh, poor thing.
Do horses die broke, too? Who is it? Fleet Lady?
Yes. Are you satisfied?
No, I'm going to ring up headquarters.
You crazy.
Then I'm going to call Jackie Gregg and tell him his hunch paid off.
I wouldn't do that, Mr. Novak.
Stop kidding me, sweetheart. She didn't get killed in a fight with another horse. Gregg figured somebody was tilting the machine. That's why Fleet Lady's dead. That's why I'm going to call headquarters.
Suit yourself, but remember what happened to Fleet Lady.
You getting tough, Angel?
No. You just wouldn't look good with a saddle, Mr. Novak.
Well, I watched her as she turned and walked out of there. It was the kind of a walk that makes you flip the calendar and find out how far away spring is. I looked around a while, but it didn't do any good. The place was full of doors, so whoever killed Fleet Lady got out easy, like a rumor at a church picnic. I closed the door and went down the line to call headquarters. As I stood in there talking, I saw Sybil Thornton drive away. It was a long convertible with red asbestos seat covers. After I called headquarters, I went back and waited near the stable. About a half hour later, a police car pulled up, and when I saw who got out, I began to get unhappy, like a 3-legged man in a ballet school. It was Hellman from Homicide, and he had a squad with him.
All right, I'll talk to him. Hello, Novak. Where's your trainer?
Your boys get paid to laugh at you, Hellman. I don't.
Yeah, where's the horse?
What are you doing on the case?
I came for the ride. You mind, Novak?
No, I just wondered if they wised up downtown.
Yeah?
Because you could find a dead horse, Hellman. If they staked it out in the middle of Market Street, you'd find it before long.
I'll try this time. Where is it?
Stall 18 over there.
Keep an eye on him, boys. I'll be back in a minute. In here, Novak?
Yeah, the one with the teeth like yours.
You better shut up, Novak.
Don't get jumpy. You haven't seen the horse.
Just shut up, huh?
It wasn't going to be much of a conversation anyway.
What color horse was that, Novak?
What do you mean? Take a look at it.
Yeah, I did. I just took a look. It's a smart horse, Novak.
What?
That's right. That dead horse in there is wearing a double-breasted suit.
Hellman got the message straight. I walked in and took a look. Jackie Gregg was lying there on the floor as dead as last year's love. The sickness didn't show until we rolled him over on his stomach. Somebody had gone duck hunting in the middle of his back. I began to feel a little sick myself, and I was ready to send out for the same gun when Hellman started to talk.
You forgot to mention the guy when you phoned headquarters.
He wasn't there. I was in here before, and the guy wasn't around.
What was he doing under the horse?
I don't know. Hellman maybe crawled out of a crack. I don't know. There were 2 shots. I came in and found the horse.
Yeah?
Check the horse.
You're trying to tell me the horse shot back? Who is he?
A guy by the name of Jackie Gregg. He gave me $200 to find a missing horse.
Yeah?
A horse called Fleet Lady running in tomorrow's handicap. This is the end of the line.
How do you know it's the same one?
I don't. Maybe you got to be a horse to tell. Why don't you ask one of your boys? Yeah, your boy's real tough. Call him off, Hellman.
He's nasty. We all hate him, Novak.
It's all right. I'll put it on your bill, Hellman.
That's good. You can write it up at headquarters.
Hellman, you ought to rent an idiot. The heavy thinking's too much for you.
I can piece this together. We come out here and find a dead man with you kicking up dust 40 feet away.
Look, Hellman, I didn't kill the guy and call up headquarters. I know they're bad in homicide, but I'm not that big-hearted.
We got a spare hook for you, Novak. That's where you stay until somebody gets you off.
Well, you can start out with Sybil Thornton.
Another horse?
She's got the speed for it. Look her up. She owns Fleet Lady, and she was dashing around in the dark here playing easy to get.
I'll look her up.
You better leave the boys behind. After all, she's only a woman. When you see her, ask her about that van down on the waterfront and what she was doing before I made that phone call.
I'll tag all the bases. Don't worry, Junior. And if things fit together, you'll both be in the jug. I'll see you later. I got work to do.
Yeah, it's getting late. You better put the boys back in the cage. I began to worry after Hellman left. There was no murder gun, and he didn't have too much to go on, but there was no one else wanted my job. Oh, I knew the girl was going to have an alibi, and I was the last guy that Jackie Gregg had seen. I had about as much chance as a fat girl at a Princeton prom. Hellman didn't like me, and he was a smart cop with a disposition like a ton of rhubarb. Well, I had to start right from scratch. I felt like Adam the first morning he woke up. So I looked up a guy named Jocko Madigan, an ex-doctor and a boozer who will give you a lift if you show him where the stirrups are. Oh, he's a good guy, but he thinks all food makes a gurgle. I hit all the bars and finally found him up at Maggie Nielsen's apartment. She's a good-looking voice that lives up on the hill, and Jocko was working his way into her liquor supply.
Hello, Patsy. You're just in time to join me for my first drink of the evening, or one of my first, at least.
Yeah, I see.
Maggie's not here, but I found her whiskey. It was in plain sight, locked in the closet under some newspapers.
All right, Jocko, when are you going to sober up?
Oh, I'd planned to do it briefly on April 1st, when the rest of the world plays the fool also.
Look, I'm in trouble, Jocko. You got to help me.
Good. I've a special bottle I use to forget your troubles.
Now, look, stop caressing that jug and listen to me. I'm in a jam.
Patsy, there's nothing in nature so sad as a half-empty bottle. It's like a broken vow or an unfulfilled promise in the skies, a falling star almost.
All right, Jocko.
A falling star, and you shrug it off, never realizing that a whole world is ended at that moment.
Yeah.
100 million dreams, maybe, and you watch it fall and make an asinine wish. That's all the good it does a star to fall. It gives some kid a chance to wish for a bicycle.
You all finished now, Jocko?
Yes. What kind of trouble? Anything I could aggravate?
I'm mixed up out at the track. A guy by the name of Jackie Gregg is dead, and I don't look good.
Oh, Hellman?
Yeah. The guy's a jockey, and he hired me to find a horse named Fleet Lady.
Did you?
The horse and the jockey ran a dead heat, but there's something funny about the whole deal.
Did you talk to the jockey?
No, not enough.
Oh, Patsy, you've got to break yourself of the habit of waiting until people are dead before you think of a question.
Jocko, I want you to hit all the horse rooms. Find out what you can about the 6th race tomorrow. It's the Bonanza Handicap. Now, hurry up, will you?
If it's the 6th race, why can't we wait a while?
Start now. Get everything you can and call me. I'll leave a message at your place.
Where are you going?
I don't know. Maybe up to see the girl.
Oh, Patsy, you're going to be waving at the hangman's wife when they spring the trap door.
I gotta see her. She owns Fleet Lady.
Well, why don't I see her?
She's got a stake somewhere, and I got a lot of questions. What could you do up there?
Ah, yes. If it weren't an academic question, I'd argue the point.
Oh, it looked like a bum deal right from the start.
Patsy, you have the instinct for recognizing trouble, but not the intelligence to duck it.
Save your breath, will you?
You're like a man walking under a scaffold on a building. You realize it may crash down and kill you, but instead of hugging the building where you can't get hurt, like every other dope, you scurry for the edge of the sidewalk where you're bound to get hit if it falls.
Jocko, will you get out to those horse parlors? I need facts, not fables. Now give me a hand.
All right. Give my love to Fleet Lady.
Her name's Sybil Thornton.
I'll bet I'm not far wrong. Good night, lover.
After I left Jocko, I went to the Chronicle morgue and looked up the NBC program director, Paul Stengel. We pulled out the clips on Sybil Thornton. They were nice and fat because she'd been to Reno 4 times and hadn't broke training for years. She'd been traded around more than a Red Sox pitcher. The clipping said she was 32. Well, there were a lot of pictures. And from her eyes, you got the idea she was around 35. But there were arguments the other way, too. Well, there weren't any stories on her for the last few months, just a few items from the columns. They all said the same thing. She was hitting the night spots with a gambler named Rudy Hauser. There were pictures of him, too. Now, he would look good in a cave with heavy curtains. I asked Paul. He said Hauser had a gambling place out on Geary, so I took a cab out there. For $10, the guy at the door said Sybil Thornton had left the place an hour ago. That made me feel good. When Hauser opened the door to his office, I lost the glow.
Yeah? What's with you?
I got a problem.
You got the wrong door.
Well, you can't get any tougher, so I'm coming in.
Yeah, suit yourself. I never throw anybody out until I'm sure they've lost all their money. What's on your mind?
A horse named Fleet Lady. She disappeared at 7 o'clock tonight.
You checked under the rug. I'll try the cabin.
She got back just in time to greet somebody's gunsel.
If I say no, will you go out and lose your money like a good boy?
Fleet Lady was owned by a gal named Sybil Thornton. The columns say you're number 5 on her list.
Well, they never lie. The whiskey's too good.
Also, a little bird says she was in your office an hour ago.
That's right. She said your name's Novak.
Yeah.
Next time you got a bombshell, give it a test run.
With Fleet Lady dead, your money's going to look real good in the 6 tomorrow.
Well, it makes you think the gal would throw a race.
For the same reason she goes out with you?
Huh?
When a gal takes a Great Dane like you out in public, it generally means the guy's a few bucks ahead of her.
You want to fight the team now, Novak?
Mm-hmm.
And just remember, sometimes you can't be right and a gentleman, too.
Yeah. I hope that's the way you feel when they pick you up for Jackie Gregg's murder.
Huh?
Oh, you do a real nice double take, mister. The jockey checked out with a horse.
I didn't know that, Novak.
Yeah, with no brains, you built this gambling club.
I didn't know he was dead. If I told you that, Novak, I meant it. He was all right for a little punk. I'm sorry he's dead.
So's he. I'll see you later, Hauser. I got to nose around and find out where you were tonight.
Yeah. You seem all right, Novak. So I'll tell you. If you got any dough left when you leave my table, it's bet it on a horse named Fleet Lady in the 6th race tomorrow.
Do you always bet on a dead horse?
You got the tip. Use it or bury it, but don't loan it out.
Oh, the case was a regular grab bag when I walked out of Hauser's office. I began to tick off the things that didn't add up. First on the list was that van down on the waterfront. If it was Fleet Lady, who got shot in the stable? If it was the ringer, that meant Fleet Lady would run tomorrow. Oh, I couldn't figure out why Hauser was so sure she'd win. An idea kept racing around the back of my mind like an ant in a cookie factory. Jackie Gregg lied about that van down on the waterfront, but why? Not to bail me out of the poorhouse with $200. Oh, I got part of the answer when I stopped with the pay telephone and called Hellman.
Yeah, Hellman talking.
This is Novak. I got some news.
You'll have to put it on the back page.
What do you got?
Your friend Jackie Gray had some love life.
Well, there's a chance for you, Hellman. Who's the girl, Sybil Thornton?
Yeah, we found her picture in his wallet, the gooey kind.
I bet you stole it for long train rides. What time did he die?
The right fit for you between 9 and 10 o'clock. 2 shots from a .32 caliber pistol.
How about the horse?
45 caliber.
2 people. It's getting involved.
Maybe, maybe not. You got 2 hands, Novak.
Look up a guy named Rudy Hauser. He's got a joint out on Geary Street.
I got enough friends. You look him up.
I did. He's still talking about Fleet Lady and tomorrow's race.
All right, maybe he's sentimental. Look, Novak, I'll pick out my own work. I don't need free help from you. Jackie Gregg paid $200 and look what he got.
That suits yourself, but Rudy Hauser and that gal are close friends.
Yeah?
Like 2-part harmony in a telephone booth. Get off the dime, Hellman. Hauser's got that gal in his hip pocket. She owns Fleet Lady, and he's betting her to win.
You're trying hard, Novak.
It's got to be a slow field to lose to a dead horse. Wake up, Hellman. You couldn't smell a rat in a basement full of cheese.
I did all right in your apartment.
Huh?
That .32 caliber pistol, we found it in your place. See you later.
Well, I wasn't too worried about that. Hellman's smart enough to know a phony plant. I began to think about that .32 caliber pistol. It's a woman's weapon. Well, that doesn't prove anything. So's a bread knife if she's in a bad mood. Must have been about midnight when I got to Sybil Thornton's place. She was wearing black lounging pajamas tied tight around a slim waist. She looked like a wasp with a nice sting, and she had company.
Come in, Mr. Novak.
Yeah?
Mr. Novak, this is Ronnie Stark.
Hello, Novak.
Yeah.
Well, he's not very friendly, Sybil.
He's just parting because they're going to arrest him for Jackie's murder.
How do you like Hellman?
You've known him longer.
Yeah. Somebody left the murder gun up at my place. Where you been all night?
Please, Mr. Novak, you're embarrassing Ronnie.
That's right. I'm blushing, and it's not the whiskey, Novak.
I see.
You must stay longer, Ronnie.
She's persuasive, huh, Novak? See you tomorrow.
You won't forget, Ronnie.
No, I won't forget. I'm betting on you, Novak.
What won't he forget?
Mr. Novak, I hope nobody ever asks you that question.
You don't want to talk about putting that gun in my apartment?
No.
Let's talk about Rudy Hauser, then. Your meat grinder friend. We just had a good talk, and he opened up a new road.
What'd you tell him?
Don't break a spring. He's all right.
Will you do me a favor, Patsy?
Like not talking to Hauser anymore? Huh?
That's right. Won't do you any good, Patsy. It'll do me a lot of good.
How's he going to know which horse got killed? I'll bet you lied to him, Angel.
It's my apple cart, Patsy. Leave it alone.
Sure. But play your hand right, baby. Because I'm going to watch your cards. And if you got one that says Jackie Gregg, I'm going to call you the hard way.
Patsy, you nice beast. I really think you would. Sit down.
Yeah.
A drink?
No,
Do you good.
not right now.
Well, you've read the book.
Just a couple of chapters.
I bet they're the right ones.
You better watch out, baby. I may be a long shot.
Well, you care as long as I bet.
I don't.
That's good. I didn't think you'd mind.
Aren't you beginning to crowd the beachhead?
Don't be a sissy, Patsy. You can't live forever.
All right, Angel. It's time to wire the folks.
Mr. Novak, just wait until you know me better.
That's for me. I left the number.
It's your fault, then.
Yeah.
Hello, Patsy.
What'd you find out, Jocko?
Not much. Nobody seems to care about the sixth race.
I care about it.
Oh, that's because you killed one of the jockeys. The rest of the people have a more casual interest.
How do the odds run?
Oh, no heavy favorites. Vinair and Sleepy Time Gal figure to be the best at around 5 to 1.
What about Fleet Lady?
Down the line somewhere. I talked to one fellow. He says she's a dog and couldn't beat a paralytic goose over 100 yards.
Yeah, what else?
Well, that's all.
What do you mean, that's all? Start digging, Jocko. We're not getting any place.
Not even at your end?
Huh?
Well, I counted on you to do better than that. Good night, lover.
On the way home, I bought the morning papers. There was no story on Jackie Gregg, no details, and most of the story was a statement by Hellman on Hellman. There was no mention of Fleet Lady, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, there was nothing I could do but roll into bed. I woke up about 9, called Jocko. It was like sending a message out to the Farallones by Indian Runner. He just muttered and said he'd meet me out at the track. Well, I had to have some more dope, so I called Ira Snow. He calls the races and bets on them. The way he does it, a horse is a real beast of burden. He was playing elf when I got him on the wire.
Yeah?
Ira, this is Novak. What do you know about the Bonanza Handicap?
It's a horse race.
Oh, you're funny. What about the field? Are the horses any good?
For hamburgers, maybe. Nothing else.
How about Fleet Lady?
Eastern track. Nobody knows.
Would she be worth a heavy plunge?
Yeah, if you want to be a muck. What's this all about?
Ira, I'm in trouble. How about a fix? Could they run a ringer in on Fleet Lady?
Yeah, it's been done before, but it ain't easy.
That's what I figured. How's Rudy Hauser on horses?
He ain't. He got burned a long time ago. He never bets.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Look, Novak, I know every guy in town that's got the itch. Rudy Hauser, no.
You know a guy named Ronnie Stark?
Sure, he runs a book. Why?
Nothing. May see you at the track. I'm going to make a bet.
Yeah, I'll tell the horses.
Well, that left me in a hole. If Ira was right, Rudy Hauser on Fleet Lady didn't make a bit of sense. I got out to the track about 2:30. Jocko was there, and Hellman was wandering around up in the grandstand where they couldn't push him into a starting gate. Sybil Thornton waved from her box as I walked by to get a better shot at the starting line for the 6th. They were almost at the post when Jocko came back from the betting window.
Well, Patsy, I bet $2 on a horse called Scotch Victory. It seemed like a good omen.
Yeah.
I saw your friend Rudy Hauser at the window.
Huh?
He was pouring money down on the favorites to win.
Well, that's why the odds have gone down on Vinair and Sleepy Time Gal. Look at that board, will you?
Yeah, Fleet Lady's gone all the way up to 12 to 1.
Yeah, from 8 to 1. All the way up.
Maybe the word got around she's dead.
No, that's the funny part. She's down there. See, number 3 on the rail. Not a peep out of anybody.
Is going to the front by 1 length. Sleepy Time Gal by a head. Fleet Lady between horses is running third by 1 length. On the outside, it's Vinair and Old Soldier. Going into the clubhouse turn, it's Hot Weather by 2 lengths. Sleepy Time Gal by a half length. Fleet Lady is moving up on the outside. It's Vinair fourth by 1 length. And Old Soldier. Down the back stretch, it's Hot Weather by 2 lengths. Fleet Lady, moving up on the outside, is now second by 1 length.
She's running well for a ghost.
Yeah.
Rudy Hauser'd better hurry up or he won't see much.
What?
He better hurry. He left the track 10 minutes ago.
Huh? Are you sure, Jocko?
Yes, I heard him tell someone he had to make a phone call just before the betting closed.
Well, Jocko, you're a sweetheart.
Oh, I like to think.
Come on, let's go to that stable.
The race isn't over.
It was over 5 minutes ago.
Well, how about my $2?
Come on, will you? There's only one person who will try to fix a horse race. That's a horse. Well, I knew there was going to be trouble fast. The horses were just coming under the wire when I waved to Hellman and started for the stable. When we got there, Sybil Thornton was clearing out like a fire sale.
I'm in a hurry, Patsy, darling. Let me by.
Now, you made a bad play, Angel. Stick around.
Let me by, Patsy.
You heard him, lady. Stick around. Thanks, Copper. I'll take charge.
That's a big gun, Hauser.
I got a big beef. You let me drop $100 grand, Sybil.
It's your idea, Rudy.
Not this way. You let me drop $100 grand because you ran Fleet Lady.
The program said Fleet Lady, and that's who ran.
I brought those odds into line at the window. My other 80 looked bad on Fleet Lady. You didn't stay to watch her trail the field.
All right, I didn't stay. You lost your $100 grand. You killed the ringer. You were a smart big shot who was going to sew up the race.
You ran Fleet Lady and cost me $100 grand. All right, Copper, move away from her. Over this way, Sybil.
No. Don't let him do it, Patsy.
I want to see how tough you are.
Come on, Sybil. Let's you and me move against the stall.
Watch out, Hauser.
You're backing into the horse. Grab the horse, Novak. He's going to trample him.
You grab him. It's your idea.
Dan.
Yeah. You should have learned the first time you can't beat the horses.
That's a bum joke, Novak.
I guess it is.
Now that we're all here, who do we book for Jackie Gregg's murder?
I'll answer that, friend.
Who's this guy?
It's one you missed, Hellman. Hello, Stark.
I know, Novak. Well, what are you waiting for, Sybil? Tell the man you killed Jackie Gregg.
Had enough trouble today, Ronnie.
You got more coming. Well, you figured it out yet, Novak?
Hauser dumped his 80 grand on you.
That's right. It's a lot of spending money.
Wait a minute. Ronnie, I don't like this.
Oh, you get your half, baby. I'm going to write out an IOU. When they book you for murder and the vote's in, you can't use it.
You wouldn't do a thing like that, Ronnie.
A dead girl can't spend 40 grand. She killed your guy, Copper, and tried to palm it off on Novak. I was there, so I'll testify.
Ronnie, you're a no good guy.
Don't be silly. I love justice. A booker for murder, Copper. I want to tear up that IOU.
Well, Hellman finally worked it out. It started out as a fixed race, and when they were all through, it was up to the horse. Rudy Hauser put the squeeze on Sybil for some dough. She offered to run a fast ringer in place of Fleet Lady, so Hauser could pick up a bag full. Rudy just wanted to make sure, so he sent one of his boys around to knock off Fleet Lady. Only the guy killed the ringer instead. Well, that was a break for Sybil. She made a deal with a bookie named Ronnie Stark to take all of Hauser's bets and guarantee him that Fleet Lady couldn't win because she wasn't that good a horse. It panned out that way. She let Hauser think Fleet Lady was dead. He spent the 20 grand at the window pushing up the odds on Fleet Lady and dumped another 80 on her to win. The moving van? Well, that was a phony story Gregg used to get me to scare Sybil. He wanted in on the deal. He went back to the stable that night, got in a beef, and she killed him. She had him out in her car. When I went to make that phone call, she figured it was a good way to pass the buck. Well, Hellman asked only one question. Why would a nice, tame horse go crazy and trample a guy to death? Jocko had the answer. The horse that killed Hauser was a filly.
Broadcasting Company has just brought you the fourth of a new series, Pat Novak, for Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is produced and directed by William P. Rousseau. Jocko Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and conducted by Basil Adlam. In our cast were Virginia Gregg, Tal Avery, Stacey Harris, Hugh Thomas, and Carlisle Bibbers. This program is being released to our servicemen and women overseas through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Be with us again next week when over most of these same ABC stations we will bring you Pat Novak for Hire. This program came to you from Hollywood. Now, a listening reminder. Tonight, don't miss Jane Wyman when she guest stars and explains how she created her unforgettable role as the deaf mute in Johnny Belinda. Hear Jane Wyman tonight on this ABC station. This is ABC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Some terrific quotes here. I picked one, and I've designated with the Pat Novak Show. I'm going ahead and designating quotes of the day because some of these zingers are just absolutely priceless. And so that will be over at our show notes site, greatdetectives.blogspot.com. The big thing that stands out to me in this episode is Jocko Madigan steals the show every time he comes on stage at this point in the series. Sad part is that half of Jocko's philosophy makes sense to me. So I don't know what that means, but I don't sense it's a good thing. But or maybe that means some of Breen's philosophy. Breen, the writer of the show, makes sense. Though probably as a writer using a character who's known as a drunk as the dispenser of common sense is, well, a little bit unusual. But the show's a little unusual, but. Pat Novak had his horse episode, which kind of leads me to think of last week's Let's George Do It, where he had a horse episode. You wonder how he ended, for the right amount of money, Pat Novak, I think, would get up there and ride that horse. But he would not accept a horse's payment. But we're going to get into today's episode. This one is called The Robbery, and this is extremely different. Remember, this show was actually, is very different from the last one. It was actually broadcast 2 weeks after last week's show. And this has got to be the most amazing metamorphosis of a show in 2 weeks I've ever seen. So this is going to be interesting. Before we get started, I want to encourage you to go to the show notes site, greatdetectives.net. Got any comments, feel free to email me, box13 at greatdetectives.net. But let's go ahead and get into tonight's program of Let George Do It, and we'll come right back.
Your neighborhood Chevron gas station invites you to Let George Do It. Brought to you by the makers of climate-tailored Chevron Supreme Gasoline and RPM Compounded Motor Oil. George Valentine would be the last person in the world to take a job that was not exciting, even with a large salary attached. That's why he opened his office and advertised to solve any problem, for a fee, of course. Well, he's had his excitement all right, sometimes more excitement than he bargained for. Right now, George, his secretary Claire, and Sonny are driving along in his car.
Mr. Valentine, why so much mystery? Where are we going? Just playing hooky from the office, huh, Mr. Valentine? We can't afford to play hooky, Mr. Valentine. You know that.
Have you two ever heard of the Harding Bookshop?
Not I. Never. Why? Should we have?
Well, that's where we're going.
To buy a book? Of course not, Sonny. Mr. Valentine has a book.
Here, bright girl, take a look at this newspaper clipping.
What does it say, sis? William Harding, eccentric owner of the Harding Bookshop, died in his sleep last night. He leaves his widow Harriet and a nephew Frank. Mr. Harding had been in poor health.
Okay, that's enough.
Well, what about it? Man dies in his sleep. Where do we come in?
Well, his widow phoned. She wants me to meet her at the bookshop at 11. She made it sound urgent.
Jeepers, I wonder why she wants to see you.
An eccentric book dealer dies in his sleep. His widow is very anxious to see me. Kid, I don't know what it's all about, but it has all the ingredients for some real excitement.
Oh, it's no use, Mr. Valentine. The bookshop's closed.
Maybe Mrs. Harding hasn't arrived yet.
Wait a minute. I think I hear someone in there.
I'm sorry, but we're not open for business. The shop is closed.
Oh, Mrs. Harding, I'm Mr. Valentine, and these are my assistants.
Oh, of course. I've been expecting you. Come in. Yes, look at the place.
Books scattered all over.
Yeah. Somebody been searching for something, Mrs. Harding?
You can see why I called you. Someone broke in here last night.
Did you phone the police?
No, I didn't.
No? Why not?
Because I think it was an inside job. The windows were securely locked. They don't look as though they'd been tampered with. Someone unlocked the door and walked right in.
I see. You suspect someone in your family. That's why you didn't phone the police.
Mr. Valentine, I won't try to keep anything from you. I suspect my husband's nephew, Frank.
Did he have keys to the shop?
As far as I know, my husband and I had the only keys.
But you must have some reason for suspecting Frank.
Well, he's always been a wild boy. I never had any use for him. My husband was fond of him. He even had Frank helping here in the shop.
Mrs. Harding, just what was this person looking for, do you know?
Money.
Money?
I'm not sure, of course, but I think my husband had some money hidden away here.
Uh-huh.
You may have heard my husband was, well, he was odd. Would be like him to hide the money in his shop.
Then he mentioned some money to you?
He always said that we'd be well taken care of in our old age, and yet he died penniless.
I see. And just what do you want me to do?
If there's any money here, I want you to find it. I'll pay you, of course.
Oh, of course. But the shop's already been searched. Maybe the money's been found.
I don't think so. You see, I frightened the person away.
Oh, then you saw someone.
I just caught a glimpse of someone running away. It was dark, but I think it was a man.
Mm-hmm. Why did you come down here last night, Mrs. Harding?
I wanted to look around myself.
Oh, yes, sure. All right, Mrs. Harding, I'll keep in touch with you. Come on, kid.
I'll be waiting to hear from you.
Let's go, kid.
What do you make of it, Mr. Valentine?
Say, quite a girl, isn't she? Her husband dies, and that same night she's down at his shop looking for any money he may have hidden.
Well, why don't we stay here and search the shop?
Because someone beat us to it, Sonny. Besides, I want to know a little more about this case. And a little more about Harding's death, too.
Mr. Valentine, do you think he was murdered?
I'm just guessing. Come on, let's go to the car.
Hey, wait a minute. I want a word with you.
Jeepers, I wonder who that is.
Must be the nephew.
I just want to warn you not to believe half of what my aunt tells you. She's not herself. She's hysterical.
Oh. Well, I don't agree with you, Frank. Your aunt seems unusually calm, considering.
Calm? She called you in, didn't she? You knew what she was doing. Why would she call in a private investigator?
How did you know I'd been called in?
Well, you were, weren't you? Suppose she told you there's some money hidden away. That's a lot of baloney.
Is it?
You're just wasting your time. They said some money disappeared after my father died, too, but we never found any. There's always that kind of talk when some eccentric dies.
Just when did your father die?
5 years ago.
Uh-huh. Frank, were you with your uncle when he passed away?
No. It was during the day. I was in the shop with my aunt. Miss Barry phoned us.
Miss Barry?
Alice Barry, the nurse. My uncle's known her since she was a child. Of course, she's a young woman now. Very attractive, too.
Okay, Frank. See you again sometime.
No, you won't. I'm going to tell Aunt Harriet to call you off.
Yeah, do that.
Do you think she'll listen to him, Mr. Valentine?
No, she doesn't trust him. Claire, I want you to get all the information you can on Harding's death and meet me here.
Here?
Yeah, in front of the bookshop about 10 o'clock tonight. And Sonny.
Yes, sir?
Get down to the Evening Express. Talk to Ben Steele. He's a friend of mine. He'll let you look through the old newspaper files.
But what am I going to be looking for?
Well, Frank's father died 5 years ago. Get what you can on it.
Okay, Mr. Valentine. Hey, what are you going to be doing?
Oh, he's going to talk to the nurse, of course.
Why, Claire, how did you guess?
Oh, she's young and attractive. Naturally, you'd want to investigate that yourself, Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Harding had been ill for years. There was nothing mysterious about his death. But don't take my word for it. Talk to Dr. Moss.
Oh, I'd rather talk to you, Miss Barry.
And I know Mr. Harding didn't leave any money. You're wrong about that, too.
if you don't mind my saying so.
Miss Berry, when a woman is beautiful, she can toss my theories into the ash can, and I don't open my mouth.
I'll find that out after I get to know you better.
Oh? You going to know me better?
Of course.
What makes you think Harding didn't leave any money?
Because he couldn't even afford to pay me a salary. He gave me this box of old phonograph records instead.
I see. Miss Berry.
Alice.
Alice?
Alice.
Alice, did Harding die in his sleep?
Oh, yes.
Then he didn't say anything before he died?
Well, he mumbled something.
Mumbled something? What? Could you tell?
I suppose he thought he was a little boy again, listening to Mother Goose.
Why? What did he say?
Mary had a lamb.
Mary had a lamb. Are you sure?
Well, the words Mary and lamb were plain enough.
Uh-huh. Look, here's my card. If you think of anything else, give me a buzz, will you?
I'll give you a buzz.
Oh, good. Say, how does that verse go? Do you remember?
Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow.
Oh, yeah. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
You're late.
I was detained.
By the nurse?
Now, never mind.
What are we going to do, Mr. Valentine?
Well, we're going to get inside this bookshop.
Hey, Mr. Valentine, where did you get those keys?
They've opened lots of doors. See? Never fail.
I'll try to find the light switch.
Now, don't bother. I'll use my flashlight. Sonny.
Yeah, Mr. Valentine?
Stand near the window, will you? Let me know if you see anyone.
Okay. Mr. Valentine, the books are all back in place.
Well, Mrs. Harding must be a neat housekeeper. Come on, Claire. Now, we're looking for the section that has books for children.
Then the nurse did give you a clue. Was she helpful?
Oh, yeah. And beautiful.
Really? Tell me about it.
Well, I haven't time. Couldn't do it justice. Here we are now. Let's see. Peter Rabbit, Alice in Wonderland. Hey, look for Mother Goose.
Is she a blonde?
Yes. Treasure Island.
A natural blonde?
Oh, Claire, will you concentrate on Mother Goose?
No. Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, good. Now find Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Why?
Oh, Claire.
Oh, all right. Here's that corner, little Miss Muffet. Mary had... Oh, here it is.
Good. Now read it.
Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, lamb was sure to go. Do you want all the verses?
Well, isn't there anything written on that page?
No.
Well, maybe there's some more Mother Goose books.
These are all there seem to be.
Okay, hang on to it.
Put your hands up.
Oh, Mr. Valentine, Buster and Cat.
Now, what are you doing here, Frank? Where did you come from?
I was in back. I've been waiting for someone to show up.
Why? What made you think someone would show up?
Well, the place was ransacked last night.
And you thought it might happen again tonight, huh?
You can't tell. And Harriet says she frightened a person away. He might come back.
Uh-huh. That may be why you're here. Or then again, you might be looking for the money yourself.
I told you there isn't any money.
Okay, Frank. Now put that gun away. You might hurt somebody.
Get out of here, all of you.
All right, we're going. Coming with us?
I'm going to stay here and keep an eye on things.
Hey, that's a very good idea, Frank. Just keep an eye on things. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Oh, Mr. Valentine, it's a little late to be reading Mother Goose.
Well, look, here's what we've got so far, kid. Harding's brother, who's supposed to have money, dies, but he doesn't leave anything. On the other hand, Harding, who's supposed to be poor, tells his wife they'll be provided for in their old age.
Oh, I see. You think he had his brother's money, and he hid it in his bookshop.
That's what Mrs. Harding thinks, and so does Frank.
Well, go on.
Well, this Mother Goose rhyme should lead us to the money.
Why?
Because Harding tried to tell Alice about it before he died.
Alice?
The nurse.
Oh, first name.
Oh, definitely.
Hey, who'd be phoning at this hour?
Hey, get it, will you, Claire?
Hello? Is Mr. Valentine there?
Yes, who's calling?
Alice Barry.
Oh, just a minute. Your nurse. She's not a natural blonde. I can tell by her voice.
Have it your way. Hello, Alice.
Mr. Valentine, maybe I can help you after all.
Yeah, what's up?
Would you remember that Mr. Harding left me a box of records?
Yes?
Well, I was looking through the box of phonograph records when suddenly I... Oh!
Hello, Alice.
Mr. Valentine, what's the matter?
Something's happened to her. I've got to get over there quick.
Well, it'll take George a few minutes to get to Alice's apartment. Meantime, I'd like to tell you about a conversation I had recently. One of my Chevron dealer friends asked me the other day what qualities I look for in a gas station. So I said that, first of all, I look
for Chevron Supreme gasoline and RPM compounded motor oil. Well, that's easy, he said. Just keep your eye peeled for a cream, green, and burgundy station. That's your cue for Chevron. Then I told him that I'm a credit card user. Don't blame you, says he, and don't forget that Chevron credit cards are as good as gold at our station. So then I told him my favorite gas station must be a friendly place where I can depend on getting good service for my car. The dealer laughed and said, "Sure sounds like a Chevron gas station to me." We all had plenty of experience before branching out on our own. Now that we're in business for ourselves, we know how to keep our customers happy by keeping their cars in good shape. I had to agree with my friend. Chevron gas stations offer just about everything a motorist wants. Try them yourself and see. George was about to get some important information. The nurse, Alice Barry, phoned him, but before she could explain, something happened to her. Now, it's a few minutes later. George is opening the door to her apartment.
Alice! Alice! Oh, you poor kid. Here, let's sit you on that couch.
Oh.
Now, take it easy. You're going to be all right.
Oh, Mr. Valentine.
Wait a minute. I'm going to put you down here. There you are. Now, you better lie still for a few minutes. I'll get you a drink of water.
No, please don't leave me.
Don't be frightened. Hey, you've got a nasty-looking bruise on your forehead. Otherwise, you seem to be okay. How do you feel?
Oh, like I've got two heads.
Yeah, I'll bet. Want to tell me what happened?
Well, there isn't anything to tell. I was talking to you on the phone, and then it happened. Somebody took a sock at me.
Well, who was it? Don't you know?
No, he must have crept up and hit me from behind.
Behind?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't see him at all, huh?
No, for all I know, it might have been a woman.
Yeah. It might very well have been a woman. What about the records?
No, I guess they're gone. They're on that table over there.
That's bad luck.
Oh, don't worry about them. It was just an old bunch of records. Believe me, if all those endearing young charms, who is Sylvia, and a few more like that.
But I thought you discovered something about them.
I guess the person who stole them thought so, too. No, Mr. Valentine, that's not why I phoned you. Valentine, that's not why I phoned you.
Feel like telling me about it?
Of course. You see, while I was looking through the records, I got to thinking about Mr. Harding and what he'd said just before he died.
Yes?
I could almost see the whole thing all over again. He was moaning and tossing around in the bed. I ran to him and felt his pulse.
Go on.
I told you that he said Mary had a lamb. But now as I think back, Mr. Valentine, I'm almost certain he said Mary Hayden Lamb. Mary Hayden Lamb.
Mary Hayden Lamb. A woman's name?
That's right. Do you think it means anything?
Well, it must mean something. Yeah. It'll probably lead us right to the money. That is, if there is any money. Now, look, I got to beat it. But I want you to lock the door behind me, understand?
Don't worry. After this, I'll always lock my door.
Good. Better put some ice on that forehead. It's turning a beautiful purple.
I'll be all right. Mr. Valentine.
Yeah?
If it does mean anything, will you let me in on it? I feel as though I have a stake in this now.
Oh, I don't blame you. Okay, Alice. I'll keep in touch with you. Hey, open up. Hey, Mr. Ward. Mr. Ward, hey, open up.
You out of your mind? What are you doing here at this hour?
I want to buy a book.
Well, go away. We're closed. Come back in the morning.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Don't close the door, Mr. Ward. I got to have something to read tonight.
You realize it's after 11?
I know. I'm terribly sorry, but let me in, will you?
Oh, all right. Get in. Other people have sane customers, but I suppose it's got to be a mystery with at least 6 murders in it.
Mr. Ward, did you ever hear of a book called Mary Hayden Lamb?
Never, no.
Are you sure? I came here because you have a reputation for knowing every book that's ever been published.
There's never been a book published by that name. Now, however, if you were to ask if there were ever a novelist by that name, I'd give you a different answer.
A novelist? Hey, of course. Why didn't I think of that? Well, tell me about it, will you?
Well, she was a local writer, and to my knowledge, she wrote but one book, thank heaven.
Why do you say that?
Because it's by far the worst trash it's ever been my bad luck to read.
I see. What's it called?
Isle of Love. It's about a girl and an island and a man, and if you want something to put you to sleep, I'll personally guarantee you your money back.
Then you've got a copy, huh?
One. Almost sold it this afternoon.
Almost sold it? Is that so? Someone wanted it, huh?
Well, ask me about it anyway. But evidently had the good taste to turn it down. I Found it on the counter when I was putting my books away.
Well, who asked to see the book, Mr. Ward? Do you remember?
Certainly not. I do a big business, young man, and I can't keep track of every customer who walks into my shop. Unless they make a special impression by getting me out of bed at this unearthly hour.
Okay. Anyway, you've made a sale. I'll take Isle of Love.
No, you've made a bad choice. Yeah, here you are. Marked down to 89 cents. And, young man, believe me, I'm cheating you.
Hey, Claire. Sonny, come on, wake up.
Oh, hello, Mr. Valentine.
May we go home now, slave driver?
Oh, I'm sorry, kids. I know it's late, but we can't stop now. Don't dare take the chance. Somebody may be getting desperate.
What do you mean?
What do you expect to happen?
Well, nothing if I can beat him to it. Now, Claire, I've got a job for you. How are you in the charm department?
Charm?
Yeah, that's right. Have you got any? Don't answer that.
Whom do I have to charm?
Frank.
The nephew? I quit.
Hey, I knew he was suspicious. As soon as I saw him, I said to myself, now there's
Shut up,
a
will you, Sonny? Claire, I want you to get Frank out of the bookshop tonight.
So that you can get in there without his seeing.
That's the idea. Think you can do it?
Oh, it should be simple, even if my hair isn't long. Oh, don't worry, Mr. Valentine. I'll take care of Frank.
Who is it?
Oh, put that gun down, Frank. It's Claire.
Oh. You're Mr. Valentine's assistant, aren't you? What do you want?
Well, Mr. Valentine's just down the street at your aunt's house.
What do you want?
Well, I was with them, but then they wanted to talk alone, so... Well, they sort of left me stranded. Don't I look stranded?
Yeah.
Well, your aunt was giving Mr. Valentine an earful. She's not very fond of you, is she?
You can't forget that I was once a wild kid. I had straightened out since then.
Oh, I can see that.
What do you want?
I want to come in. Use the phone to call a cab.
Why didn't you stop at a drugstore?
Oh, well, all right if that's the way you feel about it. Good night.
Wait a minute. It's pretty late for you to be wandering around.
Oh, I knew you had fine instincts, Frank.
Oh, all right. Come on. I'll take you in my car.
Okay, Sonny, come on.
The coast clear?
Yeah, they just drove away in Frank's car. Now, don't turn on the light.
Excuse me for asking, Mr. Valentine, but just what are we looking for?
We are looking for a book.
More Mother Goose?
No, The Isle of Love. There ought to be a copy just like this one somewhere in here.
Well, why do you want two copies?
Don't you understand, Sonny? I've got to have Mr. Harding's copy of this book.
Oh. No, I don't understand.
Never mind. Just start looking.
Yeah, but Mr. Valentine, there's at least 1,000 books in the shop.
Let's see now. Mary Hayden Lamb was a local writer. Now, why would Harding choose her book? Unless... Wait a minute. I think I got it, Sonny. He must have known her.
What of it?
That means it would be Harding's personal book, see?
Oh. No, I don't see.
Come on. There's a little woman back at the store. Remember? That's where Frank was hiding the last time we were here.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, come on.
It's dark.
Careful. Now, here we are. I'll look around with my flashlight. Let's see.
Hey, there's a desk, Mr. Valentine.
Any books on it?
Sure.
Read the title.
Webster's Dictionary, The Complete Shakespeare, Cooking for Fun, and The Isle...
The Isle of Love. That's it. Grab it, Sonny, and let's get out of here.
Okay, Mr. Valentine.
We'll take it back to the office.
Hey, aren't we ever going to get to sleep tonight?
We haven't time. Now, let's get to the car. Sonny, Jockey.
Jesus, what was that?
Somebody took a shot at me.
Mr. Valentine.
It's all right, Sonny, you missed.
Yeah, but let's get out of here quick. I don't think that person likes us. And then somebody started shooting at us. Oh, it was plenty exciting, sis.
You're lucky. Frank's a bore. His conversation is brilliant. It's either yes or yeah.
I guess it was Mrs. Harding shooting at us, huh, Mr. Valentine? Because Frank was with Claire.
Not for long.
No?
No, he just took me to a cab stand.
I see. Run out of charm?
Oh.
Jeepers, Mr. Valentine, you've just about taken that book apart.
Well, there's nothing in here. No secret compartment, no writing on the pages. I can't find a thing.
Well, then let's go home and get some sleep.
No, we can't stop now. Okay, kids, make yourselves comfortable.
What are you going to do?
Well, I'll have to start reading the book.
Aloud?
Certainly. I might miss something.
You're going to read all of it?
That's right. Here we go. The summer sun was setting in a blaze of glory, casting its light like a shimmering ribbon of golden orange across the lake. On the bank, her wavy hair streaming from her uplifted head, stood Jennifer.
Oh, I can tell this is going to be a classic.
Perhaps her dream of love was to become a reality, for coming toward her was a canoe, and in the canoe was a man.
Mr. Valentine, you think Sonny's old enough?
Oh, keep quiet, will you? Jennifer sighed longingly. Sonny. Perhaps her stay on the island was at an end. Her face was alive with expectancy. Weeks had gone by. Jennifer knew that this was her man.
What choice did she have on a desert island?
In spite of his aloofness, in spite of his air of mystery, Jennifer knew that she loved him. And then a wonderful thing. He knelt beside her and kissed her.
Well, it's about time.
Oh, she said, then you do love me.
Naive creature, isn't she?
Yes, he answered. I love you with all my heart. If you don't believe me, look carefully when the grandfather's clock strikes the hour of midnight. And I love you, too, she told
Wait
him.
a minute. What was that again?
And I love you, too, she told him.
No. Go back to where he loves her.
Oh, yes, he answered. I love you with all my heart. If you don't believe me, look carefully when the grandfather's clock strikes the hour of midnight.
Hey, that doesn't make sense.
Hey, wait a minute. The printing on this page looks a little different. Yeah, so does the paper. Claire, get my copy of the book.
Here it is.
Okay, turn to page 82. Come on. Okay, now read that part.
Yes, he answered. I love you with all my heart. I swear it, Jennifer.
That's enough. This is it, kid. Mr. Harding printed this page himself. Look carefully when the grandfather's clock strikes the hour of midnight.
Mr. Valentine, there's a grandfather's clock in the bookshop.
That's right, Sonny. And there's where that money must be hidden. Claire, get Mrs. Harding on the phone. Tell her to meet us at the bookshop right away.
At this hour?
And then phone Frank at the shop. Tell him to expect us.
All right.
Oh, and Claire, phone Miss Berry, will you? He wanted to be in on the kill.
Oh, now you've got me phoning your blondes for you. Well, whatever you say, Mr. Valentine.
What are you waiting for, Mr. Valentine? Why don't you give me my money?
You mean my money, Aunt Harriet?
Now, don't fight over the money. We don't even know if there is any.
And why did you call us here?
And why bring Alice into this?
Well, if there is any money, you'll have to thank Alice. She gave me the clue.
Then it really was a clue, Mr. Valentine.
That's right, Alice. It led me to a book. And in the book, I found some words that Mr. Harding printed. It said, look carefully when the grandfather's clock strikes the hour of midnight.
The grandfather's clock. I'm going to see about
Now,
that.
take it easy, Frank.
Now, Frank, that's not your property. Get away from that clock.
There's nothing in here.
The clue didn't say there was something in the clock. It said, look carefully when the grandfather's clock strikes the hour of midnight.
Well, it's striking 12 now.
Well, what's different about the clock when it strikes 12 than at any other time?
When it strikes 12, both hands point up.
Why, girl, Claire. Sonny, hand me that chair.
Okay. You think there's something on top of the clock?
No, above it. On the wall here. Yeah, you see? There's a false panel.
Need any help?
Oh, thanks, Frank. I think I can do it with the heel of my hand. That does it.
What is it?
Is there something in there?
Yes. A package.
What's in it?
Just a minute, I'll see. Well. Bill, large denomination. And lots of them.
Let me have that.
Now, don't rush it. Hey, there's a note here, too.
What does it say?
This is Harding. Is this your husband's handwriting?
No. No, it isn't.
That's my father's handwriting. You see, the money is mine.
Not so fast, Frank.
Well, what does the note say?
It says, Dear Brother Bill, I'm leaving this money in your care. Frank is too wild to be trusted with it. When he settles down, you can give it to him.
Then give it to him.
Wait a minute, there's more. There's a condition I attach to this. Frank must provide for you and your wife as long as either of you shall live.
Is that all?
That's it, Mrs. Harding.
And it is Frank's money. Give it to him. He doesn't have to provide for me.
No, this money is for both of us, Aunt Harriet.
Well, that's more than I deserve, Frank.
You can stop talking right now and hand that money over.
Alice.
Give it to me, Mr. Valentine, and hurry up about it.
I never argue with a beautiful woman, especially when she has a gun in her hand.
Mr. Valentine, was she the one who was after the money all along?
That's right. When she phoned me and got bumped on the head, I thought it was funny I didn't hear the blow over the telephone. And if she was hit from behind, why was the bruise on the forehead?
Never mind the explanations. Hand that over.
Then she's the one who shot at it.
Certainly. She couldn't get in here to look for the book because Frank was guarding the place. First, she tried to put me off the track with that Mother Goose stuff. But she finally gave me the right clue. She figured if she told me the truth, I'd get the money and she'd tail me and pick it up.
That's enough out of you, Mr. Valentine. Give me the money.
Oh, certainly. Here you are, Miss Berry.
But, Mr. Valentine...
Don't try to stop her, Frank. It's dangerous.
You're right. It is dangerous. Stay just where you are. Don't any of you make a move.
But, Mr. Valentine...
Careful.
But you're letting her get away.
Not very far. The police are out there.
Hey, it's okay, Mr. Valentine. They got it.
Your money will be returned to you, Frank.
Thanks, Mr. Valentine. I owe you a lot.
That's right. But you'll get a bill in the morning. Come on, kid.
Good night, Mr. Valentine.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, I'm really going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, so am I.
Oh, too bad. Too bad it had to end this way.
Huh? What do you mean?
He's thinking about the nurse. Aren't you thinking about the nurse? Aren't you, Mr. Valentine?
You know, Claire, I believe she was a natural blonde after all.
George will be back in a moment. Meanwhile, it doesn't matter whether you sit in an office or ride a tractor. Life these days seems to be getting more complicated for everybody. Any convenience that makes living a little simpler is always as welcome as spring. Your Chevron dealer knows this, as any friendly businessman should. So he tries to make you his friend by making his cream, green, and burgundy station as convenient and efficient as he can. He'll make it a point to know your car and the grade of RPM compounded motor oil you use. He'll urge you to use a Chevron credit card because he wants to save you time. He handles Chevron Supreme gasoline because he knows it'll give you good going wherever you drive. He takes the trouble to know the country nearby so that he can give you good travel tips. When you get right down to it, at Chevron gas stations, you get the same sort of convenient service you expect from any other wide-awake home-owned business. Get acquainted with the one near you. You'll like it. Well, next week, George Valentine is confronted with a problem. A big problem. You'll probably hear something like this.
Client or no client, Mr. Valentine, you can't keep a dog that big in this apartment.
Jeepers, do you realize we eat 6 pounds of food a day?
6 pounds? What kind of food?
I'm not sure, but he seemed awfully fond of my head.
Okay, Sonny. Go out and buy him a bone.
Chevron gas stations all through the West invite you to be with us again next week for another chapter of Let George Do It, brought to you by the makers of Chevron Supreme Gasoline and RPM Compounded Motor Oil. Let George Do It, starring Robert Bailey as George with Francis Robinson, RPM Compounded Motor Oil. Let George Do It, starring Robert Bailey as George with Francis Robinson as Claire and Eddie Firestone Jr. as Sonny, is written by Pauline Hopkins, produced and directed by Owen Vincent. Others in the cast were Jane Morgan as Mrs. Harding, Harry Bartell as Frank Harding, Evelyn Scott as Alice Barry, and Paul McVeigh as Mr. Ward. The music was composed and conducted by Charles Dance. Your announcer, John Heasting. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, we just got a very strong look at the great potential of the show. And Bob Bailey, who, of course, would become, later on in his career, the greatest portrayer of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, out there. So, a humongous leap forward in this episode. Nice plot. Some clever turns. Really, just wow. But still, they have this nice little touch of humor. It gives us this really, charming feel to the story. So, wow, I'm just blown away. I did not expect we would get this good of an episode in in the 1946 season. It makes me almost makes me regret what I said about those 41 lost episodes. Almost. It's listening to the preview, it seems that it still might be a little whiles in getting it. But the next time we'll listen, it will be in 1947. bringing you another exciting episode. This week's episode from Sherlock Holmes. I would tell you the exact time it was set in, but to be honest, I am in doubt. And I will get to that in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get into tonight's program. This episode of Sherlock Holmes, called Murder by Proxy, and we'll go ahead and listen to it, and then we'll come back.
Every week at this time, the makers of G. Washington's Coffee bring you a story from the Sherlock Holmes series of mystery dramas. This week's adventure is an adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story entitled The Final Problem. Remember as you listen to it that G. Washington solves your daily coffee problem just as surely as Holmes solves his famous mysteries. At the end of the program, we have a brief announcement about Dr. Watson and his friend Sherlock Holmes. Please listen for it. And that opening paragraph, as always, leads us to Dr. Watson's comfortable, hospitable study.
Well, there's a blazing fire and a steaming cup of G. Washington coffee to welcome you. Here it is, Mr. Bell. Made it as you came up the steps.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. You know, a good cup of coffee always seems to me to be the very essence of hospitality.
You name me a better coffee than G. Washington's, Mr. Bell. Go ahead, name me one.
But seriously, G. Washington's isn't just another brand of coffee. It's really entirely different. It not only has a perfect flavor, but it's the easiest coffee to fix. Just a teaspoonful in the cup, add hot water, and incidentally, you never make more than you're going to use, so that makes it economical, too.
Right, Mr. Bell. Now, suppose I begin my story.
Fine. What's it to be this time?
How about another tussle between Holmes and Professor Moriarty?
Excellent. Always gives me plenty of first-class shudders to meet that individual.
Well, tonight's story deals with Holmes' efforts to break up one of his most unpleasant schemes. A racket, you'd call it today.
And did he succeed?
Oh, no, Mr. Bell, that's putting the cart before the horse. The affair began with a series of curious disappearances from St. Anthony's Hospital.
Well, what disappeared, Dr. Watson? People or things?
They were corpses, or perhaps I should say cadavers. Oh. No, before I go any farther, perhaps I should explain that St. Anthony's is a medical school and hospital combined. I myself took my course in anatomy and dissection inside its venerable walls. Sir Lionel Greatlake, the head of the staff, was an old friend of mine. We cursed our internship in the same hospital. But to make a long story short, I received a frantic communication from Sir Lionel begging me to persuade Holmes to come straight to the hospital. I remember that night perfectly. A particularly nasty pea super had settled down over London. Literally feeling our way, we crept along the embankment till we sensed, rather than saw, the grey walls of St. Anthony's looming up ahead. Foghorns always have to sound so mournful.
Well, Watson, you would insist on coming tonight.
No, the staff entrance should be somewhere along here. And here it is. I stumbled over the doorstep. Where is that infernal bell? Oh, here we are. I hope the night watchman hasn't gone off on his rounds.
No, someone's opening the door.
Thank you, Watson. The Polgax can't see me recurring.
No, it's me right enough, Leo. I brought Sherlock Holmes along with me.
Oh, thank heavens. Come in, come in.
Holmes, this is my old friend, Lionel Greatlake.
Delighted. Honored, and I may say grateful and relieved. This is the 6th theft inside of a month, Mr. Holmes. It's got the place in an uproar. Nurses having hysterics, patients insist on going home.
I take it you're alluding to the cadavers which have been stolen recently.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, you know how jealous a hospital is of its reputation. The least little bit of scandal
Oh, cheer up, Leo. Maybe it's just a prank of one of the lads. You know what medical students are.
That's what I thought when we found the first body missing 4 weeks ago. But now that 5 have been stolen, oh no, that's carrying a joke too far. They tried to get away with another this evening.
Really?
I just happened to drop into the dissecting room in time to stop it. The minute I opened the door, I knew someone was in there, but he slipped out the side way before I could light the gas. But come and see for yourself. Follow me. The laboratories are in this wing.
Oh, mausoleum. Looks familiar, Leo. Remember when we used to sneak a forbidden smoke behind that broom closet?
I wish to heaven life were as simple nowadays. Deuced place is like a beehive, buzzing with suspicion. No wonder we've been able to keep it out of the papers. Here we are. 1 second till I unlock the door. That's it. Now, just let me turn up the gas. Well, there we are.
Quite impressive. I see you have all the latest improvements. That gentleman in the corner. I take it he was the object of tonight's attempted abduction.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, that's the corpse. Splendid specimen, too.
Face a bit the worse for wear. Otherwise, a splendid body.
Yes, we were most anxious not to lose him.
He must be fairly recent. I see there have been no injections of the preserving fluid.
Quite right, Mr. Holmes. He died only this afternoon.
And the other stolen bodies, they have been duly preserved, I suppose.
Well, no, now that you mention it, they were all stolen before being treated.
Curious, eh, Watson?
Well, I don't know. I suppose if you're going to be a body snatcher, you might as well take fresh ones.
You'll pardon me if I rummage around a bit, Sir Lionel?
Of course, of course.
Yes, I can carry on my interrogations and my investigations at the same time. Oh, there, my lens needs polishing. Now then, male or female?
What?
The stolen bodies, were they male or female?
Oh, male, all of them.
You don't say. Interesting, eh, Watson?
You mean you think the thief's a woman hater?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as that. What age are the missing corpses?
Oh, I don't know. Middling, I should say. Remarkably good lot of bodies, though. No marked defects, I mean.
Here's a lad that's been careless about cleaning his instruments.
Oh, that'll be Potter. Had some girl on his mind. Can't wait to get washed up and away.
I see. And you found this specimen out here after the thief was scared off, huh? I take it the cadavers aren't usually left lying about.
Oh, certainly not. They're kept in that long steel cabinet over there. Can't be too careful, you know. Have to be rats in a building as old as this.
How many people have keys to that cabinet, Sir Lionel?
Only Dr. Lacey. You may know him by reputation, Mr. Holmes. Hugo Lacey. He's our head surgeon and has charge of the classes in dissecting.
Of course, brilliant fellow. I say, Leo, how's he coming along with his experiments in transplanting tissue?
Can't say. Carries on most of his experiments in a little laboratory he's fixed up in his own lodgings. Never lets anything out till it's perfect. One of the cleverest surgeons in the country, Mr. Holmes. Magnificent touch. I could wish, however, that he was a better professor.
No good at teaching, eh?
No, it isn't that. It's his temper. He can be devilish nasty. And let him catch one of the lads with an instrument bent out of place. It's a phobia with him, Mr. Holmes. A place for everything and everything in its place. I trust young Potter sets his things to right before Lacey sees them.
Oh, this is the door through which the thief escaped, I take it.
Yes, I bolted it on the inside, as you can see.
Yeah, that's that. I think I've seen all there is to see.
Found anything, Holmes?
Yes. There's what you might call an overabundance of clues. Too many to permit of any intelligent deductions.
What do you mean?
Well, 14 sets of fingerprints, for instance. And in the dust, under that operating table alone, I found shreds of 5 different types of tobacco.
Yeah, I'm afraid Mrs. Platts is getting careless again. Oh, she's the cleaning woman, Mr. Holmes. Dr. Lacey is always complaining that she's inefficient. Well, Mr. Holmes, if you've finished your investigation, perhaps you can advise us how we should act in this matter.
Now, before I do that, suppose we come to an understanding. Would you be satisfied merely to stop the thefts, or do you want to know who is responsible for the missing corpses?
We must find out everything, Mr. Holmes. Who and what and how and why. A mystery of any kind is most demoralizing for a hospital.
In that case, we should do nothing further.
But Holmes...
We should do nothing further tonight.
But aren't you going to set a watch on this?
If we did, the criminal wouldn't show up. You may take my word for it, Sir Lionel. The man who has been stealing your cadavers is thoroughly acquainted with the workings of this hospital.
Look here, Mr. Holmes. If we don't set a guard on this room, he may steal this body, too.
I sincerely hope so.
Well, no use making things too easy for him. At least we can put the body back in the cabinet.
Unfortunately, that won't be possible. We can't open it. The cabinet has a spring lock. The thief slammed it after him.
Oh, dear. What will Lacey say when he finds this corpse out here in the morning?
Well, I don't think there's much danger of that, Sir Lionel.
Really, Mr. Holmes, I'm disappointed. I must say I hoped you'd be more helpful.
Well, There's one thing we can do for you before we leave, eh, Watson?
No, what?
Well, we can make up for Mrs. Clutch's deficiencies. If you'll get us a couple of old rags and Lionel, I think Watson and I can go over this room in no time.
Holmes, have you gone out of your mind?
Not at all, my dear Watson, not at all. It's most important that everything should be neat and tidy. It's a nice brisk day, eh? Wind seems to have dissipated all the fog.
Now, what's the idea of routing a chap out of his nice warm bed and the streets still deserted? Depressing, if you ask me.
The important thing, my dear Watson, is in setting a trap is to collect your catch before anyone else does. Oh, here's St. Anthony's. Hello. Sir Lionel seems to be having a bit of an argument with someone on the steps.
And I'll be put off the schedule by any sort of an executive, you see. I'm going home now to fix Dr. Lacey's breakfast, but I'll be back. And when I do, I'm going to clean that room.
But Mrs. Clutch, I assure you
I'll find one you are to be put in charge. Everyone knows routine is what keeps an officer running.
Watson, Mr. Holmes, I didn't see you. Come in.
Watson Anthony's come at you, I'd like to know. How can we wait you?
What? Here, I beg your pardon.
I'm not to be put off his schedule, I tell you that. My soul, what I...
Yes, that was Mrs. Clutch.
So I gathered.
Bit of a termagant, eh, Leo? Red hair, fairly blazes.
Come in. Sorry to give you such a stormy welcome, but I just caught Mrs. Clutch about to clean up the laboratory. I suppose you want to take another look at the place.
If it's convenient.
Yes, of course. Follow me.
I wonder why the sudden burst of energy on Mrs. Clutch's part.
Dr. Lacey may have been putting the screws on. They get along like cat and dog, those two.
But didn't I just hear her say that she was going home to fix him his breakfast?
Yes. You see, Dr. Lacey is Mrs. Clutch's star lodger.
But surely if they get on each other's nerves, as they seem to...
Yes, it's a bit difficult to understand, I admit, but... I suppose Lacey hesitates to move. He's really very comfortable. He's built in a lot of improvements, cupboards and things of that sort. And I've told you how he is. A place for everything and everything in its place. Moreover, Mrs. Clutch is a first-class cook, and Lacey, he's a good feeder.
Father Lacey, I wouldn't push the old girl too far. I'd be afraid of finding poison in my coffee some bright morning.
Well, here's your laboratory, Mr. Holmes. After you, gentlemen. Looks about the same as it did last night.
I shall be able to judge better after I've gone over the place with my microscope.
But you said yourself there were too many fingerprints and things.
Well, why do you suppose I insisted on those rags last night, eh?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I see now. We were rubbing out those prints.
Marvelous, my dear Watson, marvelous. The old brain is actually functioning this early in the morning. Well, now let's see what we've bagged. Oh, here's the sweeping stroke of a mop. The very mop that has been standing in this corner. Yes. Here are the imprints of a heavy hand on the edge of this table. Note the unusual whorls on the left-hand middle finger, like a question mark.
Those must be Mrs. Clutch's fingerprints. She was just about to start dusting the table when I caught her.
Yes, the prints on the mop and on the table are identical. Well, that seems to be all the evidence against Mrs. Clutch.
I got her out as quickly as I could.
Holmes, the corpse. It's gone.
I wondered how soon you noticed that. The corpse has been stolen. But what did you expect, huh?
Sorry to contradict you, Mr. Holmes, but the corpse has been put back in the cabinet.
Oh, indeed?
Yes. Matter of fact, it slipped my mind. I should have mentioned it sooner. Seems Dr. Lacey dropped in late last night and insisted on putting the cadaver back in the cabinet. Nothing the night watchman could say would dissuade him. I told you about his mania for order last night, Mr. Holmes.
These are doubtless his fingerprints, then, here on the lock and around this panel of the cabinet. Yes, typical surgeon's hands. Long, sensitive fingers, but strong. Tips slightly specialist.
Yes, that's Lacey right enough.
But, Holmes, aren't you going to look inside the cabinet?
Well, I suppose we might as well if Sir Lionel can provide us with the keys.
Certainly. Lacey left his with the night watchman. Here we are.
By Jove, the corpse is missing.
Yes, I gathered it might be. Now let us see if we can find anything further in the room itself. Here we are. Prints of a third set of fingers. Yes. He came in here earlier than Lacey. Notice the fingerprints of the doorknob. First this individual, then Lacey, and finally Mrs. Clutch. All nicely superimposed one over the other.
Say, Holmes, this is fascinating, almost as exciting as a scientific experiment.
Yes. This third individual had not any too steady. Here he stumbled and had to put his hand out to brace himself. There's a nice print here on the wall. He moves over to this jar of alcohol. He removes the cover. Then he puts it back again. And here he staggers out.
You mean he was intoxicated?
Beautifully.
Yes, but I don't understand. Why in thunder did he come poking around here in the middle of the night?
Watson, have you no recollection of your own green salad days? Didn't you ever sneak a bit of laboratory's alcohol to help out a celebration that had suddenly gone dry?
One of the students, eh? Any idea which one, Mr. Holmes?
Well, I think I can make a guess, but I don't intend to. The boy isn't mixed up in this body snatching. The corpse was here when he left. His prints are under Lacey's on the doorknob.
What is it, Potter? Oh, I just thought I'd slip in and polish up my instruments before those pictures get... I beg your pardon, sir. Before Dr. Lacey gets to look at them. I'll come back later.
Oh, not all. Come right in. We're just leaving.
Yes, but Holmes, we haven't discovered anything.
Oh, but we have. What we have. We know for sure that either Lacey or Mrs. Klutz is involved in this business. Possibly both. Yes. I suggest we go to pay the Klutz ménage a visit.
Well, I'll be glad to take you over myself. Potter, you look a bit fagged this morning. I'm all right, sir. A bit liverish, that's all. Well, don't let it get you down. Come along, Watson.
So, Miss Potter.
Yes, sir?
They tell me tomato juice is an excellent antidote for raw alcohol.
That's Mrs. Klutz's place over there, the house with the white shutters.
Look at that crowd of people standing gawking out in front. I say, looks like something's happened.
Yes. There's my favorite watchdog of the law, Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard, standing in the doorway looking important. Oh, hello, Lestrade. What's up,
Plenty. A woman by the name of Klutz has just murdered her lodger, Dr. Lacey.
Well, I told you she'd do it someday.
Any unusual details?
No, open and shut case. First, she stabs him with a kitchen knife, then she throws the body, clothes and all, into a vat of magic acid this bloke was keeping in his dressing room.
Indeed. Any objections if I come in and take a look around?
All right. But I tell you, this case is open and shut. But come in. Body's in first room, head of the stairs. It's not nice, but if you want to look, go ahead. I gotta stay here.
Oh, thanks.
What a vile odor. Chemical smell, plus something else.
Oh, that'll be the acid. Look out. Stairs are dark.
Holmes. You hear that noise? Like something bubbling and frying?
Yes. That's the acid working on the body.
Of course. That smell is acid and fat dissolving.
Right. This must be the room. Oh, good morning, Jenkins. Good morning. Lestrade set you here to guard the body, eh?
Yes, sir.
This air, too.
Oh, Jenkins, I think you might open another window. Get a draft through here.
Yes, sir.
Now, Watson, if you'll bring me that jug labeled olive oil, you may as well stop the action of this acid.
You're right.
Yes, sir. Pour it right into the tub. As Lestrade said, the remains are not exactly attractive. I wonder, Sir Lionel, if you could bring yourself to identify Dr. Lacey.
Oh, certainly, Mr. Holmes. I'm a medical man. I'm quite used to... Yes, it is rather horrible. Face almost entirely eaten away. With the dark hair, what was left of it, and the clothes and that ring, he never could get it off his little finger. Yes, I think we may safely say that it's Lacey, for whatever.
Well, Jenkins, how was he killed?
Kitchen knife on the table there. Mrs. Klutz's fingerprints plain as day.
So Lestrade's been persuaded the value of fingerprints, eh? Dear, the world does progress. Yes. These are Mrs. Klutz's prints, all right.
Hey there, Joe. I'm here. Bring Mrs. Klutz along.
I need to go and get to the end of it. I didn't kill him. He was dead when I come in. He was dead, I tell you.
None of your lip and get going.
Lestrade, just a moment. I'd like to ask this lady a few questions.
He was dead when I found him. Is it likely I'd have called in the police if I'd have done it?
Oh, you called in the police.
Well, that she did. Leaning out the window, screaming bloody murder.
Oh, any idea who could have killed Dr. Lacey, Mrs. Klutz?
No, sir. I ain't been home all night. On account of my sister's having a baby. I went straight from her place to the hospital.
Oh, you had any chance to check up on that, Lestrade?
Oh, that's straight enough, but she'd been home at least 20 minutes before she called the police. Time to murder half a dozen doctors.
I didn't do it, Dependent.
You know, Lestrade, it's just possible that Mrs. Klutz may be right.
Huh?
You see, it would take several hours for acid to dissolve the corpse as far as this.
What of it? Her fingerprints are on the knife. That's enough for me. Hers and no one else.
And why shouldn't me fingerprints be on that knife? It's my own kitchen knife, ain't it?
Well, that knife, suppose you look at it again.
Now, what in blazes good?
Notice the order of the fingerprints, for instance. Thumb and forefinger near the blade end of the handle. Now, suppose you take this pocket knife of mine and pretend to stab me with it.
Obviously, just a lot of... All right.
There, now you see? Notice the way you hold it? Thumb against the outer end, little finger next to the blade. In other words, the grip for using a knife for kitchen work and for stabbing are exactly reversed. Dr. Lacey was not stabbed with this knife at all. It was put here by someone to incriminate Mrs. Klutz.
Yes, but if she didn't do it, who did?
Someone who wanted to get rid of her. You any idea who that could have been, Mrs. Klutz?
No, sir. That I haven't. The only person mean enough to do a thing like this is that son of a gun, Lacey. And he's dead now, Lord rest his soul. Oh, dearie me, it's not bad enough having a murder in my own house and then losing my best lodger. But the police have to go accusing me on top of it all. Right as not, I'll never get another tenant of these rooms. Oh, dearie me.
All that is so much froth, my dear Mrs. Klutz, compared to the real danger you're in.
What's that?
The murderer. He's still at large, and he isn't exactly fond of you. I think I'll just drop in from time to time to make sure you haven't been murdered in your bed.
Really think Mrs. Klutz is in danger?
Obviously, Watson, obviously. Confounded, why doesn't she answer the bell? Anything's happened and... Oh, here she comes.
Oh, good afternoon, gentlemen. Please to step inside. I'd have come to the door sooner, but I was upstairs cleaning out Dr. Lacey's suite. Would you believe it? I've got a tenant.
You don't say. Well, does he know its history?
Yes, sir, that he does, but he says he's not superstitious.
Oh, how fortunate. What's he like?
Well, he's a German. Professor or something. Come here to carry on some experimenting with Dr. Lacey. Dr. Lacey told me he was expecting him only last week. And so when he come asking for Lacey this morning, and I told him what had happened, right away he asked if Dr. Lacey's notes and instruments were still here. And when I said yes, he said he'd move right in and carry on where Lacey left off. Would you mind coming upstairs while I finish my work?
Well, lead the way, Mrs. Klutz, lead the way.
He's a nice-looking man, too. Blonde with a beard. He limps a little. Oh, it'll be a relief, I tell you, after that, Lacey. He was getting queerer and queerer going out at all hours of the night. I declare I was on the verge of telling the police to keep an eye on him more than once. Well, here we are. Just you sit on the sofa. Now what in the name of...
Well, from what I can see out the window, I should say that your new lodger has arrived.
Saints preserve us. Excuse me, gentlemen, when I let him in.
Holmes, anything we better be going?
In a moment, Watson, in a moment. Plenty of time.
This way, please. Look up at the tender stairs. Oh, my, ain't it hot? Oh, Mr.
Holmes.
This is Herr Gluck.
Professor Gluckfader, to behave.
How do you do?
Delighted. Sorry I had to come all this way and then find a friend dead.
He is no friend. He is what you call a colleague. Mrs. Klutz, the portmanteau on the bed, please.
Well, I know Mrs. Klutz will make her comfortable. I trust you had better luck than Dr.
Come, Watson, come. We must be going. You see, Professor Gluckfader, we were the detectives on this case.
Don't you have found?
Nothing, I'm afraid, nothing. These are my notes on the case. I'm really rather ashamed of them. Would you mind if I burn them here in your fireplace?
Oh, not at all.
Thank you. Oh, dear me. I don't seem to have a match.
One moment, I'll get you some here in the drawer of this table. Here you are. A nice little box.
Thank you, Dr. Lacey. Huh? I thought you would know where to find them. A place for everything and everything in its place. Yes, I was sure you would be drawn back to these rooms.
Me? You think I am Dr. Lacey? He is dead, murdered.
No, that wasn't Dr. Lacey in that tub of acid. It was one of the bodies he had stolen from St. Anthony's. It had a rather curious conformation of the bones of the right foot. I had seen it the night before, so of course I recognized it. Your misfortune, Dr. Lacey.
But his foot, sir. What is all this rubbish?
And you see, it came to my attention not long ago that Professor Moriarty was getting in touch with quite a number of heavily insured businessmen. One after another, these men died. But by and by, the insurance companies became suspicious. I was told to investigate. I discovered that on several occasions, Professor Moriarty had called on Dr. Lacey. Dr. Lacey, who was experimenting with facial surgery. Dr. Lacey, who had access to any number of corpses from St. Anthony's. Well, in time, I began to suspect that Dr. Lacey was working on these dead bodies and transforming them so they would look like the gentlemen who wished to collect their insurance. Professor Moriarty made a handsome profit, I believe. Unfortunately, though, I couldn't prove my theory.
Sebastian, it is crazy. No one would believe it.
Oh, so I found.
Then what good does it do you?
Just this. When you're in prison, the whole scheme will fall to the ground.
But I have not, Dr. Lacey. You have no proof.
There you are wrong, sir. This little matchbox which you just handed me contains all the proof that I need. On it is a set of fingerprints, which is identical with some on the cabinet door in the laboratory of St. Anthony's. And those fingerprints are known to be Dr. Lacey's.
Oh, it's magnificent.
Elemental.
Phenomenal.
Elemental, my dear Watson, elemental.
That's the end of the story, Mr. Bell.
But Dr. Watson, didn't the man ever confess?
He did better than that. He offered to show up Moriarty, but when they came to take down his testimony, he was found dead on his prison cot. Obviously, more of Moriarty's work.
Well, there's one thing I don't understand. Why didn't he take the same way out as the businessmen? Surely he could have doctored some corpse up so it looked like himself.
He could have, Mr. Bell, but that's where human nature comes in. He hated Mrs. Klutz, so he wanted to implicate her. It was his big mistake.
Well, that certainly is a fascinating story, Dr. Watson. Now to get back to something where there are never any mistakes.
I know what you're hinting at now. Another cup of G. Washington coffee.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Watson, have you ever stopped to consider how much the word economy has come to mean to Americans during the last couple of years?
Well, it's come to mean more to me, too. I have to save on a lot of things I never thought about before.
How do you do it, Dr. Watson? Does it mean giving up all the good things in life and using cheaper quality?
Not at all, Mr. Bell. I still keep to the good things, but I'm a little more careful how I use them. More satisfaction in being a little careful with good things, you know, than in putting up with poor quality. Oh, by the way...
What is it, Dr. Watson? You're chuckling over something now. It's only fair to tell what it is.
Well, a lot of people have been taking a lesson from Sherlock Holmes, Mr. Bell. They've been drawing deductions.
About what?
About my book of Sherlock Holmes stories, Mr. Bell. They've been observant enough to notice the little number 1 on the back of the volume, and they want to know if there are going to be other books with more stories in them later on.
I'm afraid I'm not very observant, Dr. Watson. I never noticed that little 1. And are there going to be more stories?
I can't tell for sure, Mr. Bell. I've been talking it over with Mr. Washington. But just in case there are, I want everybody to get volume 1 right away, so they won't be left when the first edition runs out and be unable to make up their complete set.
That's right, too. We'll have to warn them about that. Especially with that economy we were talking about. It's worthwhile getting a really good book for nothing. And what about G. Washington? Is that economy?
Of course it is. You know a Sherlock Holmes story about the rich old mustard manufacturer, don't you?
I know, Dr. Watson. I can't say that I do.
Oh, it's a good story. It applies to saving money on coffee, too. It seems a smart young man, who thought he was smart anyway, asked the Mustard King if he really made all his money out of the little bit of mustard people use on their food.
And what did he say?
He said no. He made most of it out of the mustard people leave on their plates. And that's just the way it is with coffee, or ordinary coffee, anyway.
You mean the real expense is not what you drink, but what you waste?
Exactly, and that's where G. Washington saves. There's no waste. You only make what you want, and yet you can have all you want.
Well, that sounds like economy, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Watson and I want you to test G. Washington economy. Get a 4-ounce can right away. Don't be afraid of the size of the can or the price. G. Washington is economical because it ends waste. And as a special inducement, why, Dr. Watson will give you one of his books of 7 Sherlock Holmes stories. Just print your name and address on the back of a label from your 4-ounce can and send it to Morristown, New Jersey. You will receive without cost a handsome deluxe book with a gold profile of Holmes on the cover and a picture of Dr. Watson as a frontispiece. In that way, you'll have the satisfaction of proving to yourself that G. Washington's won't wreck your family budget, and of getting a handsome book of Sherlock Holmes stories for nothing. Please note down the address, Morristown, New Jersey. And send in that 4-ounce can label right away so you won't be left without Volume 1 if the good doctor persuades Mr. Washington to wish him Volume 2. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week's story?
Next week, I'm going to tell you the story of a man 20 years older than his bride and how death came to Rose Hill.
And now, in answer to numerous requests, we want to announce that the Sherlock Holmes program has been on the air for 3 years. The part of Sherlock Holmes is played by Richard Gordon, that of Dr. Watson by Lee Lovell. Neither Mr. Gordon nor Mr. Lovell play the part of a detective and his doctor friend in any other program.
Welcome back. This episode, the intro, outro, to be honest, doesn't seem to quite go along with the whole show. Now, I thought the mystery itself was pretty good. Some great Holmesian deduction here. You have to love that in solving this case, even though I'm not a fan of this particular style of Holmes. But the Lewis Hector side, the problem we run into. It said at the beginning this is based on the final problem. My problem with this is that other than Moriarty, that's kind of a loose tie, because this is all really about the body snatching. Not really, Moriarty is kind of a subtext at the end to kind of tie everything all together. So that's a problem. My big problem too with this one was figuring out when it was made. Now, the download site I got this from placed this show in 1933. In the episode log I found places it in 1933. And the ending comments at the end of the show would indicate that this was 1933, 3 years after Sherlock Holmes had been on the air. The problem is, this does not sound like the Sherlock Holmes that I had identified as actually Richard Gordon in the House of Three Gables. And then not just in the House of Three Gables, but in the Noble Bachelor. Both of these Richard Gordon episodes. Now, the Noble Bachelor, the House of Three Gables, an original Sherlock Holmes story, as far as I know, was only done once in some unrelated performance. But the same actors did the Noble Bachelor, which only appeared in this run with Gordon in 1933, and again in 1940 with Basil Rathbone, but this obviously was not Basil Rathbone. So we're left with a bit of a mystery here. So I lean towards, and my deduction here with this particular episode, because to me, the Sherlock Holmes here sounds basically like Louis Hector, is that this was a Louis Hector episode, most likely from the 1935 season, where the 1935 season has Louis Hector and Lee Lavelle as Dr. Watson. We conclude it's from the 1935 series because there are a lot of those episodes which have a missing solution. So that is my deduction, and I'd like to say it's elementary, but I'm not even 100% sure I'm right. But I want to make sure I get these in order. So I will say this was sometime in 1935, between February 10th and May 26th ish. Hope that helps. All right. Well, this is actually Lee Lavelle's final episode that we'll have with him as Dr. Watson. He actually passes away and is replaced in the cast. And we have 2 episodes featuring Louis Hector and the replacement for the next season, which will be Harry West. So I hope you'll join us for that. This is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you another episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. Well, we've got some great comments, feedback from listeners. We had comment on Podcast Alley, and I encourage everybody to please cast your vote on Podcast Alley. Your comments are appreciated, but not required. It really does help the show grow. We got this comment from Tim in Texas, who says he's been listening to Adam's Dragnet show and really appreciates the effort taken to put on this excellent news show. You can find old-time radio shows anywhere, but Adam's intros and comments make the shows feel current, and waiting for the next one is much like it must have been in the old days, except for now I cuddle up to my iPhone rather than an old tube radio. Come to think of it, maybe I should get one of those. You know, I gotta say to him, I love the look of those old radios. It's just that the whole illusion is spoiled when you turn it on and you have alternative rock or some other of the new time music or talk come out of there. You know, here's an idea for an entrepreneur. You basically get one of those boxes, and you just set it up as an MP3 player that people can put their classic music and radio on. Really would be big with nostalgia buffs. So there is your product idea of the day. And see, people just thought you're just listening to old-time radio. We also got some comments regarding a sighting of a still living legend on one of our shows. Charlie Crist, not to be confused with the governor of Florida, though he certainly welcome to listen to the program. But this Charlie Crist writes that he heard June Foray play an old lady using the same voice as when she plays Granny to Tweety Bird. She's still working, and here's a link to her autobiography, and it's www.juneforay.com. And June Foray, of course, is best known as the voice of Rocky the Flying Squirrel from Rocky and Bullwinkle. And a lot of the old-time radio actors who did comedic roles, did lighter roles, the way they made a living after radio is they went into cartoons. I was just listening to The Saint a few weeks ago, and I heard this voice, and I realized I'd heard this voice before. Not been surprised, but one of the character actors, and I'd heard this probably voice a dozen different times on Rocky and Bullwinkle. And really, that's what happened with a lot of those lighter comedic actors. Actors like Bob Bailey, who had played in Let George Do It, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. You know, these tough detectives, some of the great detectives of radio, didn't quite feel the same just ease of adaptation now that they were going to say, hey, you could play an owl, a silly owl. Well, isn't that a great role? So it worked for the comedic actors, not so much for some of those who had really built serious radio drama credentials. I did get one complaint, and I think somewhat justified, from Bob. I thought the show was Great Detectives. After downloading the first batch of programs, I listened to the first show on my downloads, Let George Do It. Perhaps I missed something, but this softball comedy of old radio had nothing in common with what I understood to be the topic. I may listen to this program some other time, but for now I'm removing it from the list. You can do better than this. Well, I definitely understand the confusion. And for those of you out there who may have listened to Let George Do It and thought, what was he thinking including this show? Well, it started out somewhat ambiguous, but really it became one of the most entertaining detective shows around. And I would encourage you, particularly starting in week 5, they get rid of the laugh track. I think week 4's episode of Let George Do It really was a fairly decent detective story. But starting with week 5, you get some really solid detective adventures. I encourage you to listen to it. I've just got this thing where I'll take shows from their beginning, no matter how rocky that beginning might be, and go all the way to the end. So, all right, well, before we get started, I do have a little bit of a recommendation. You know, as we hear about the adventures of Johnny Dollar and his action-packed expense account, and his many travels and adventures. I think a lot of people like the idea of travel and adventure. Unfortunately, we all don't have that action-packed account. In fact, to get an idea of how much it cost for Johnny Dollar to do this, you multiply the amount that he spent on any given items times 7.3. It's kind of a good inflationary measure. Got that from the old-time radio researchers' compendium. But you can travel in first class by finding reasonable prices on hotels and airlines, rental cars, and even cruises. For all your travel needs, you need to try Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air, .greatdetectives.net will take you to Priceline.com. America's top name-your-own-price travel website, but also has a great number of deals that are available just by searching, where you can pick your time and your place of departure. Through Johnny Dollar Air, you may not have an action-packed expense account, but you can travel in Johnny Dollar style. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, the Robert W. Perry case. This one was actually, there's supposed to be a copy floating around somewhere of Charles Russell's audition, and he did the Robert W. Perry case for his audition. I didn't particularly worry about it because auditions are nice if you get them, but as they didn't actually air on, they're probably, not the most important thing to, hunt down vociferously. Plus, we've got the essential story here. So let's go ahead and get into the Robert W. Perry case.
The Columbia Broadcasting System presents Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. The next half hour has its baggage packed to take a trip with America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At insurance investigation, he is just an expert. At making out his expense account, he is an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, American Continental Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures fulfilling your assignment as a bodyguard, the body being that of your late policyholder, Robert W. Perry. Expense account item 1. Fare on night train Hartford to New York, $3.80. Expense account item 2. $1.80 taxi to Lower Manhattan the following morning. To officers Perry and Van Bruten, importers, arriving as promised at exactly 9 a.m.
Good morning. May I help you?
Yeah, my name is Johnny Dollar. I have an appointment with Mr. Perry for 9 o'clock.
Oh, yes, from the insurance company. Well, you're right on time.
Yeah, they told me I'd better be.
Mr. Perry just came in. He's alone and waiting for you. I'll buzz him that you're here.
Thanks. What was left of your policyholder, Mr. Perry, was just sliding out of his swivel chair as I hit the room. The top of his desk had erupted, and splinters of mahogany pointed their sharp fingers upward through lazy circles of smoke swirling toward the ceiling. The buzzer from his secretary's desk had been rigged to a booby trap.
Oh, no, Mr. Perry.
Stay away from him. There's nothing you can do for him. He's dead.
Oh, what happened? What happened? Whatever happened?
Come on, let's get back out of here. Here you are now. Sit down. I'll get you a drink of water. There you are. Now, just drink this.
What happened?
We heard an explosion.
I turned in an alarm. Is anybody hurt? There's a doctor on the third floor. Should I call him?
Never mind the doctor. Call the police. And nobody gets in here until they arrive. And the rest of you, go on, beat it. Run along. And turn off that alarm. Okay, miss. Now, just take it easy.
But it was all so sudden. What happened?
Well, that's not too hard to figure out. Somebody wanted to give your boss, Mr. Perry, a shortcut through life. So, whoever it was, figured out that his secretary would never buzz her boss unless he was at his desk. They rigged up a bomb somewhere in his desk that would go off when you buzzed him.
Oh, but then I killed him.
Now, wait a minute. Don't get hysterical on me. There's excitement enough around here, and there'll be plenty more when the police get here. Keep cool.
But I did it. You saw me do it.
Look, the way you put it, I killed him by coming in here and giving you my name so you'd buzz him. Drop it, will you?
I'm sorry.
Now, what about yesterday? Was he here?
Yes, all day.
What time was it when you last used the buzzer?
Right up to the last minute, about 5:30.
Who left the office first, you or Perry?
Mr. Perry, he always leaves first, and I lock up.
Well, from the looks of things, you should have used more locks last night. Somebody got in here to do some wiring. Uh-oh, I forgot that fire alarm. All that equipment and no fire. Look, before the police arrive, do you know why I was sent here?
Yes. Mr. Perry recently felt that his life was in danger. He thought that, well, with a $100,000 policy, the insurance company would do everything they could to help keep him alive.
Well, we didn't have much of a chance, did we? What was he afraid of?
I don't know.
Okay. What were his other appointments for today?
He only had 2. His partner, Mr. Van Bruten, at 11, and then...
One at a time now. Van Bruten. Anything special about their meeting?
Yes. Mr. Van Bruten arrived just yesterday from Holland.
You mean there was a branch of this firm in Holland?
Yes, and Mr. Perry was buying out Van Bruten's interest. They had their final meeting at Van Bruten's hotel last night.
Oh?
And Van Bruten was coming by this morning to pick up his money.
Cash?
No, a cashier's check. The bank was to deliver it here at 10:30.
Now, quick. Perry's other appointment. Who was that?
Christine, his wife.
Oh, yeah. Now Christine, the beneficiary.
Yes, but she wouldn't have been the beneficiary in another 2 weeks. They were getting a divorce.
Thanks for the motive. You don't like her?
I didn't mean it that way.
How about Perry? Did you like him? Okay, well, here's an easy one. What's your name?
Susan Gates. Now, isn't that about enough?
Okay, Susan, you'd better save your voice. During the next few hours, you're going to have a lot of talking to do. Oh, here come the firemen, and we haven't even got a child to ask them to save.
Where's the fire? I'm looking for a fire.
Just stick around. When the cops get here, somebody'll get burned. The firemen should have stuck around because the cops arrived in a blaze of glory. It was a very high-class investigation. 2 lieutenants. Finally, after about an hour, the police photographer ran out of flash bulbs, the office of the deceased ran out of fingerprints, and the lieutenants ran out of questions. So the on-the-scene phase of the investigation was closed. At about 5 minutes of 11, I left the police to pack up their notebooks, their clues, and the body, and went into the outer office. Susan looked like she could use a big, broad shoulder to weep on, but unfortunately, I was wearing my light gray suit. About then, a dark blue suit and a deep green voice entered the room from the corridor.
Say, there's some feller out here says he belongs here. His name is Van Bruten. Shall I let him in?
Oh, what do you think? His name is on the door you just opened.
Oh, indeed, now. Well, my name happens to be Murphy, and it's on beds all over the country. But that don't mean I'm stuffed with feathers, does it?
This'll teach you, Johnny Dollar, never to cross tongues with an Irishman. Okay, send him in, officer.
Yeah. All right, you can come in.
The policeman out there. Is there trouble here? Oh, I am Bremer Van Bruten. Where's Mr. Perry?
What?
He's waiting for me, no?
No.
But my appointment...
He's not keeping any. He's dead.
Dead? This isn't possible. Last night I saw him. He was well. What happened?
He was hit by a buzz bomb.
A buzz bomb?
Please.
Oh, sorry. I forgot other people aren't used to these things.
You mean that was foul play?
Very foul.
Please, may I sit down? My first visit in all these years, since before the war. It was to be so happy. But now, tragedy like this. He was a good man, a good partner.
I understand that as of last night, you were no longer partners.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I realize, of course, that it is indelicate to speak of such things as money at a time like this. But that is why I'm here, to receive my payment.
Oh, just because Perry got his, there's no reason for you not getting yours, huh?
But you misunderstand me. I am deeply grieved. Since the transaction was consummated, what is there to do? A delay would be a needless waste of money. I have already paid for passage back to Amsterdam tomorrow.
Your check is here, Mr. Van Bruten. Here you are.
Thank you. In all my years of business, this is indeed the saddest moment.
Yeah, those are very kind words, Van Bruten, and I'd believe them if your eyes would stop counting all the zeros on that check. Expense account, item 3, 90 cents. Phone call to your company.
American Continental Life Insurance Company, good morning.
Oh, well, that's a matter of opinion. This is Johnny Dollar. Put me through to Mr. Gordon, will you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gordon's office?
Look, honey, this is Johnny Dollar. I want to speak to Gordon. Oh, and while I'm telling him what I've got to tell him, maybe you'd better sit in his lap with some smelling salts.
I'm not that type of a secretary. And besides, he doesn't have a lap.
Hello, Dollar. How are you making out?
Out about $100,000.
What's that?
Yeah, somebody turned Mr. Perry into a firecracker. He's dead.
Oh, that's bad news. It's a big policy, you know.
Yeah. Look, what I want to know is, shall I stay on the case?
Oh, certainly, Dollar. Certainly, by all means. By the way, is there a chance of proving suicide? There's a non-payment clause.
To make this one a suicide, there'd have to be a Santa Claus. Nobody could hate himself enough to do it this way.
Well, what are the fraud possibilities?
Only fair. There's an estranged wife. She's the beneficiary, but she wouldn't have been in a couple of weeks. Divorce coming up. I'll start with her.
All right, Dollar. Good luck. But watch those expenses.
Why, Gordon, I'm surprised. I'd think an insurance man would be the first to want to see a fellow live a little. Expense account, item 3. Cab fare, $2.80. Tip to driver, $1. Christine Perry's apartment was on Sutton Place, overlooking the river. And from what the doorman told me, all of the proprieties. I took the elevator up to the 24th floor, and there I discovered that our garden fresh widow was living high in more ways than one. Everything about the place was French. The maid that led me into the living room, the decor, and the perfume, which reminded you that breathing can be fun. I looked up from enjoying my nose to see Mrs. Perry looking down hers.
Mr. Dollar?
Oh, Mrs. Perry.
I believe we can dispense with any getting acquainted. You're an insurance investigator, interested in the death of my husband. So naturally, you're here because you've jumped to the conclusion that I killed him.
Oh? You're the one that's jumping to conclusions, lady.
Then what do you want? The policy's in order, the premiums are fully paid.
I'm not quite sure. I know that you've got a great motive. So far, the only motive I've found.
You haven't had much time to look, have you?
Check. This is my first stop. Maybe you can help me. Do you know anyone who would be happier with your husband out of the way?
I know very little about my husband's friends, or for that matter, his activities for the past 6 months. That's when I left him.
Uh-huh. Well, that's not much help for either of us. Well, without someone else to suspect, I may just have to concentrate on you.
Mr. Dollar, I picked him in. I want to concentrate on me.
Well, I hope you're as long on alibis as you are short on your temper. Where were you last night?
With a friend, Al Donovan. For a while, the same place my husband was. And I've witnesses to prove who was with him. Anybody at the Club Caprice can tell you.
Well, save me a trip. I can't afford the prices they get there.
Certainly, pleasure. My husband was with his beautiful little secretary, Susan Gates.
Well, I wouldn't be more surprised if your late husband walked through the door and said that...
All right, mister, that's enough.
Al!
Yeah.
How much did you
I'm
give?
a big guy, baby, 6'4", and I've got big ears to match.
Al, please.
Would this be Mr. Donovan, your companion of last evening?
I'm getting you out of here, Christine.
I don't know what you're saying.
You lie to me. How can I help you if you lie to me? You call me stupid. The way you're playing this, you'll alibi yourself right into a cell. I'm getting you out of here.
What are you doing to me, Al? You're crazy.
Come on.
She's right. You are stupid, Donovan. She was doing just fine till you dropped in.
Mister, you've been asking a lot of questions. Now I'll give you one answer. All right, Christine. So much for the wise guy. Now about you and your alibi. You wasn't with me at the Club Caprice last night, and if it's so easy to prove your husband was there with his secretary, who were you there with? You told me you were going with your husband, talking divorce, remember?
When Al measured me for that swing, I measured my chances with him. To me, he looked like one of the corporate assets of Murder Incorporated. So I rolled with a punch, hit the floor, and stayed there. with my eyes closed and my ears open. What I heard was Christine's alibi flying out the window, Mr. Donovan giving her a few loving cuffs, and finally the pair of them flying out the door. I allowed myself the luxury of a 20-second massage on the new lump on my jaw, and then I got up and started out after them. This case was becoming interesting.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. But first, this important message. $60 million is what the Red Cross needs to carry on its great work in 1949. If this seems like a lot, just try to review briefly the various activities of the Red Cross. It can't be done briefly. Red Cross services extend into every area of our lives, bringing care, comfort, and recreation to the men in the armed forces, bringing first aid training, nutritional programs, nursing services, blood banks to our own communities. And all the time, as these activities go on uninterrupted, the Red Cross is holding itself ready to spring into instant action in case of disaster. Fire, flood, explosion, any sort of catastrophe finds the Red Cross on the scene with food, clothing, and medical care. $60 million isn't so much in the light of such activity. We can make it with each of us contributing. We're giving to our own safety, security, and peace of mind, and to our neighbors, too. So let's give generously to our own Red Cross. And now back to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I hit the street just in time to see Donovan pushing Christine Perry into a cream-colored convertible. When they got rolling, I piled into a cab and followed them, and the chase was on. At 57th and Broadway, things got complicated. My cab was 3 cars behind theirs when a red light flashed them to a stop. Then the door of their convertible flew open. Christine jumped out, dashed across the street, and down to the subway. Since Donovan didn't follow her, I followed him. When he finally pulled to a stop, he took 2 chances. He parked in a no-parking zone and walked straight into the building beside it, a police station.
This is Mr. Dollar, Lieutenant. He's been waiting for you for some time.
Huh? Well, you can wait outside, Sergeant.
Okay, sir.
My name is Johnny Dollar, Lieutenant. Here are my credentials.
Insurance, huh?
Yeah, the Perry murder in particular.
You've come to the right place, Dollar. A man named Donovan just walked in here and made a full confession.
He what?
That's right. My clerk's just typing it up. In the meantime, the gentleman is down in the tank having a bite of lunch on the city.
He confessed. Does his story add up?
As far as I know. I haven't heard too much about the case myself. It's not in my precinct.
What did he use for a motive?
Jealousy. Says he's in love. Wanted to marry Perry's wife.
Did he say how he managed it?
Yeah. He stole a key to the office from the wife's apartment, entered the building last night, and wired a bomb to the buzzer system.
Uh-huh. Well, guys do a lot of strange things in the name of love.
Yeah, looks like Donovan did.
Ah, he either killed a man, or he's trying to cover up for someone who did. Well, listen, don't execute him for a couple of days. Huh, Lieutenant? I spent the rest of the afternoon downtown in the offices of Perry and Van Bruten, importers. The partners' correspondents told me 2 things. They had been extremely friendly, and Van Bruten was extremely bald. Perry had been sending him toupees from a famous Hollywood makeup firm. At 4:30, I opened the drawer marked Employment Files. They rocked me with 2 minor explosions of their own. The folder marked Donovan Albert J. told me that he'd been employed as Perry's bodyguard over a period of years and that he was canned the day before the murder. Before I received blast number 2 from the folder of Perry's secretary, Susan Gates, the office door opened behind me.
Well, Mr. Dollar, you're supplied with a search warrant, I hope?
Just the one I was born with, Mrs. Perry. The kind they say kills cats. You know, curiosity.
What are you looking for?
I found it. How about you? What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm tired of dueling with you. I'm here because I want to... Well, I've got to talk to someone. I called your hotel. You weren't there. I tried to locate Susan, but I couldn't, so I thought maybe you'd be down here.
What's the basis of our sudden friendship?
You should know. Al Donovan's confession.
The newspapers have it already?
Yes, but there's not a word of truth in it. He didn't kill my husband.
How do you know that?
Because... What? It's impossible, that's all.
Yeah, it was a little hard for me to swallow, too, when the police told me about it. But since then, it's become a little more digestible.
What do you mean?
I just learned that he was your husband's bodyguard. He was fired yesterday. That same day, your husband calls his insurance company screaming for another bodyguard. Now, how would that add up for you? A beef, maybe?
Al Donovan's a fool. He never thinks. He just rushes in and says or does whatever's on his mind. He told my husband if he didn't divorce me that... Well, he threatened him.
You know, you came in here saying that Donovan's confession was no good. And you spend your time making it sound better and better. What do you want, anyway?
I can't help it. I've got to tell you the truth. I know it doesn't sound like I'm trying to help Al, but what can I do?
You really want me to answer that? Here. If you want to help Al, phone the police. Tell them Donovan made that phony confession to cover up for you. It's simple.
Not as simple as that.
You don't need the gun, Christine.
Hang up the phone.
Sure.
I hope you don't mind my aversion to being held for murder myself.
Well, that's a common aversion. I'm in no hurry to see you behind bars. But don't forget, when the cops want to pick you up, they'll do it. Now, don't spoil the rest of the afternoon. Take that gun someplace else. I've got things to do.
The first, I imagine, will be the call that I wouldn't make.
Well, not necessarily. If it'll make you feel any better, we'll just put this phone out of order. Satisfied?
Of course not. But don't get me wrong, Mr. Dollar. I wish you nothing but success in your investigation.
I puzzled over that exit line for a few seconds after she'd gone, and then I went back to the company's employment file, namely the application for employment as secretary of Susan Gates. It informed me that during the war she had worked in a munitions plant. Her specialty, wiring bomb fuses. When Miss Susan Gates reached home at 8:30 that evening, she found a visitor, me.
Oh, how did you get in here?
A professional secret.
Oh, you scared me. What do you want? Why did you come here?
I wanted to bring you the good news. I heard on the radio that Al Donovan confessed to Perry's murder.
Al? I can't believe it.
Why not? Who do you like for the spot?
Why, Christine. Al is covering up for her.
I'd like to agree with you. If it turns out that Christine wound up her husband's life with a bang, the company that hired me saves $100,000. But I don't know. She claims she has all kinds of alibis. One of them is you.
Me?
Yeah. Did you see her at the Club Caprice last night?
Why, yes.
I know who you were with. Your boss.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I'm not preaching a sermon. I want to know who she was with.
I don't know. Man I'd never seen before. Mr. Perry knew him, but he wouldn't tell me who he was.
Why not?
I don't know. He said I might get the wrong idea.
About what?
I don't know. We didn't sit there and talk about it all night. Why should we sit here and talk about it all night?
All right. When a census taker shows up and asks a lot of questions, people answer them. When an investigator tries to do his job, they make the proverbial clam look like a blabbermouth.
Look, Mr. Dillon, believe me, this has been a greater shock to me than to anyone else.
Excepting, of course, your late employer, Mr. Perry. How long did you work for him?
4 years.
Now, where'd you work before then?
Why, I... Oh.
Let me help you. Bombs, wiring fuses. Remember?
All right, I remember.
Good. Then maybe you'll remember a little bit more. Let's go back to last night. Guy with Christine Perry. Who was he?
I tell you, I don't know.
Was it Van Bruten?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I mean...
I'll get that.
No, I'll go.
You make sure you just don't keep going. Susan! When Susan snapped the spring lock to open the door, the gun outside opened up. The first slug caught her in the left shoulder, spinning her out of the way of the rest of them. It was getting monotonous. Every time a buzzer went off, things started booming. Susan was sprawled out on the floor in front of the door, and to open it, I had to move her. By the time I did, The hallway outside was empty. Okay. Come on, take it easy. It won't start hurting for a couple of minutes. We'll have a doctor here by then. He'll give you something. Just try and keep calm. Here, I'll throw my coat over you. Try not to move.
Oh. Trying to ruin this rug.
Never mind the rug. What we want to worry about is who tried to ruin you.
What'll they do to me?
What will who do to you?
They'll arrest me.
No, they don't arrest people for getting shot. You have any idea who it was?
That man in the office this morning. The one who picked up the check.
Van Bruten?
No, he wasn't Van Bruten.
He was a phony.
Yes.
And you still gave him that check?
Yes.
Well, I won't ask you why. But apparently you gave him the money and then tried to blackmail him. Is that right?
They'll arrest me.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Who is this guy? Where can I find him?
Oh.
Come on, now, don't pass out on me now. His name, quick.
Van Sant.
Where's he live?
Nelson Hotel.
Under his own name?
Oh, I don't.
I don't blame you. I could use a few moments of unconsciousness myself. The Nelson Hotel didn't have a Dutch name on the register, so I got a hold of the housekeeper and found out how many rooms her staff hadn't been able to make up all day because of do not disturb signs on their doors. I went a-calling at these particular rooms. On the 9th floor, I awakened one old maid. On the 7th, I startled a bunch of poker players who thought they were being raided. On the 5th, I blushed my way out of the bridal suite. And on the 4th, I struck the door of 427 and the jackpot.
Who's there? Don't you see the sign? I do not wish to be disturbed.
Oh, sorry. I must have the wrong room. I started up the hall after the fire axe, but when I got to it, I changed my mind. One of the few things I'd learned about this guy Van Sant was that he loved to murder people through doors, so I decided against trying to chop his down. Then I remembered the way those people came pouring out of those offices earlier in the day when they heard that fire alarm. So I picked up the little red hammer next to the big red fire axe, broke the little glass window, pulled the little brass hook, and set off a big brassy noise. Then I rushed back to 427. Fire! Fire!
Where's the fire?
Right here in my eyes, sweetheart.
Why you come here? You wish you hadn't.
Never mind the dresser. You're through shooting guns for the day.
Oh.
What do you think, Van Sant? You want to try some more?
You cannot make me stay here. The fire. We will all die.
You'd look good barbecued. But I'll make a deal with you. You talk. And if I like what I hear, I'll show you how to get out of here alive.
How do I know this?
Well, you don't think I'm going to stay here and fry, do you? And if you don't start flapping that tongue in a hurry, I'll probably just tie you to a chair and run. First, where's Van Bruten?
You will find him in the bedroom.
He better be alive. He's out cold. What's the matter with him?
He will be all right. He is on the sedatives.
When did this identity switch start? You better hurry up. I smell smoke.
I knew Van Bruten in Amsterdam. I knew about the sale of his interest. And I knew that the girl in the office here had never seen Van Bruten. Well, let's go now.
Don't get up. I can feel it getting warm in here.
The firefighters. We will be saved.
Now, don't be too sure. They always start at the top floor and work their way down. Come on, I can hear those flames cracking.
You know the rest. Last night, when the transaction was all finished with Perry, I gave to Van Bruten some sedative and his cocoa.
You set up that bomb so Perry'd get it before you showed up to pick up the check.
Yeah, I told you that. Then it happened that girl didn't know I was an imposter. I don't know how.
Well, let me tell you. She's been sending old Van Bruten in there 2 pages for the last 4 years. Gray ones, my red-headed friend.
Oh, yeah. Let us get out of here, no?
Yeah, out. Oh! Expense account item 4, $1.40. Night letter informing you that American Continental would have to meet payment of claim to Mrs. Christine Ferry, innocent widow of the insured. The only thing she was guilty of was trying to stay on the right side of a hot-tempered boyfriend. She lied about who she was with at the Club Caprice, not to fix herself an alibi, but to keep Al Donovan from learning that she'd been out with another guy. That guy being the real Mr. Van Bruten, who had only taken her out to try to talk her into reconciling with his friend, her husband. Item 5, $60, silver chafing dish. wedding present for Christine and her new husband, Al Donovan. Well, that was the least she could do for the guy who had confessed to a murder he thought she had committed. Item 6, $8. Flowers for Susan Gates, Prison Hospital. Item 7, fine for turning in false alarm. $1,000 and no cents. And that's what I think I'm beginning to get for getting into this racket. No sense. Expense account total, $1,263. Yours, truly, Johnny Dollar.
In just a moment, we'll tell you about next week's Johnny Dollar adventure. But first, this reminder. Just a little earlier tonight on CBS, Jack Benny turned dramatic actor on the Ford Theater. But this Sunday, he'll be back again on his own show with a special treat for the Jack Benny fans. After the last broadcast on which the Ronald Colemans appeared, thousands of letters came in from fans asking that Jack invite Ronnie and Benita back again soon. The Waukegan Wit did, and Ronnie and Benita, by popular demand, returned to the Jack Benny program this Sunday in what should result in one of the most hilarious broadcasts of the year. So be sure to listen to Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Coleman on the Jack Benny Show, which is heard on all CBS stations this Sunday. Listen in again next week when CBS brings you Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, with Charles Russell as Johnny. Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar is written by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd, with music by Mark Warnow, and is produced and directed by Richard Sanville for CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Well, welcome back. Good luck on getting the insurance company to pay that item on the expense account. It kind of just makes you wish you'd shouted fire, because there's no fine for shouting fire. But by the way, I don't think that that's something you can get a good deal on Priceline. They don't discount fines. But a good episode from Charles Russell, and this to me is kind of Charles Russell at his best. It's kind of lighthearted, but not too much so, with this kind of really fun sort of feel, particularly with the ends. So, nicely put together story. And this one was actually done, the same story was done by Edmund O'Brien. So we'll get to see in a few months how O'Brien did it. So that'll be interesting. All right, well, a couple things before we go. First of all, Andrew, who does our editing, he's gotten a shorter, easier to remember URL to his Westerns podcast. So if you enjoyed last week's episode where we showed Have Gun Will Travel, just go to OTRWesterns.com. And I'm actually, one thing that I've noticed, we had a huge spike in downloads. We actually reached to number 3 in our category on iTunes, and we've never been above number 6. There's something about just adding an extra day to a program that does seem to just increase the number of listeners, even going forward from that episode. I found that with Dragnet. So I may begin to just, not as often as Dragnet, like twice a year, have a special that is published on the weekend, because we've got some great detective stories that were movies or books, but not actually made into series, that I think people might enjoy as just a little extra special thing for the listeners. Finally, I've got to say thank you to the person who mentioned The Shadow. Because of you mentioning it, I've listened to, I think, 5 episodes of Orson Welles' The Shadow, and it's absolutely dynamite radio. But as I listened to it, I don't think it quite fits, and I think unlike let George do it, it's not going to fit our show. I would love to do it, but I'd need a different or an extra program to do it. So that one we won't be able to do until we have the time for another program. I'd like to do something kind of adventure-y, but that one takes a little bit of time and dedication. You want to not bite off more than you can chew if we haven't done that already. All right, well, that will wrap up this week's episode. Please cast your vote for us at Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Please fill out our listener survey so we have a good idea of who's listening when we fill out our advertising survey for Blueberry. We're planning on doing that around December 1st. Go to survey.greatdetectives.net. But that's all. Remember, for your travel needs, JohnnyDollarAir.greatdetectives.net. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.